Did you know an SMS is read within 3 minutes of delivery? And that SMS is still the #1 business communication tool? Let Agility help you connect with your customers with a cheap and effective SMS solution. As one of Australia's top business SMS providers, Agility helps you and your business deliver your message, track campaign success, and drive customer action. Visit agility.com.au or call 1300 764 451 and chat to Peter and his team to see how SMS can help your business. Agility, proud sponsors of the Ouzo Talk podcast. Do you have a loved one in need of aged care? St. Nicholas Senior Care Centre in Punchbowl provides premium, personalised support that doesn't just support your loved one's needs, but respects their independence, providing a premium, welcoming community within which your loved one can flourish. You'll rest easy knowing that your loved one is in a safe, caring environment that doesn't just feel like family and home, but really is. Visit acare.au or call 02 8313 2200 to see how St. Nicholas can assist your loved one. St. Nicholas Senior Care Centre, proud sponsors of the Ouzo Talk podcast. There's no Ouzo Talk without a bottle of Ouzo, which is why we love the Greek Providore. Get a real taste of the very best produce that Greece has to offer. From olive oils and delicious artisan sweets to unique spirits, earthy herbs and memorable wines. Visit thegreekprovidore.com.au to see their amazing range. The Greek Providore, proud sponsors of the Ouzo Talk podcast.
Sound is.
Nick, we're really proud to be bringing back another guest, a returning guest for the second time. Mate, this guy was a fantastic guest the first time around, and we're very lucky to have him back, aren't we?
100%. And look, all our listeners out there, stop telling us we've got him back now. Like, we got inundated with fucking emails and can you bring Mark back on, talk about his ancestors? All right, we will. It's taken a while, but we got him back.
Ask and you shall receive. You got Stephen Fry. There's a few more names that have sort of been out there in the world. You know, put it out to the universe. You never know. It's going to happen, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's
been our attitude anyway.
It is. No, look, fantastic. Mark's a champion guy, as you'll hear him shortly. But he's a busy man. He's got a lot of fingers in a lot of pies, but he's given his time to come out on the show and talk to us, which is we're really appreciative of.
Well, look, we won't bury the lead. Obviously, we do have Mark Bouris back in the room, but let's just be reminded real quickly who we're dealing with here, because he's been a trailblazer in the business world and someone who has built his reputation on empowering Australians to take charge of their financial futures as the founder and chairman of Wizard Home Loans, and now Yellow Brick Road, obviously. He was the host of The Apprentice. He's a trusted voice on navigating the highs and lows of entrepreneurship through his podcast, The Mentor, and in fact has 2 of the most listened to podcasts in Australia, including Straight Talk and The Mentor. Again, joining us for the second time in the distillery is one of Australia's genuine business leaders, Mark Bouris. Welcome back, sir.
Hey guys, thank you.
Well done, mate. Welcome back.
Happy to be
Good
here.
to see you, mate.
Happy to be here.
It's like your second home here now. Just
I love
looking
it.
at you there.
I love
Very
it.
comfortable.
Are we allowed to say which suburb we're in Sydney?
Of course.
You can, yeah.
We're in Brighton, which is the home of all the Greeks. Yeah. I'm actually very happy to be here. It's cool. Nice to see you guys.
Thank
Fantastic.
you, mate.
And by the way, you said Stephen Fry. One of my favourite audio books of all time was Mythos, which is, I don't know if you talked about that recently, but
He did.
I follow you guys and I saw that a few clips about Stephen, and what a beautiful voice, but what a great historian, actual proper historian, ancient historian when it comes to Greek mythology. Unbelievable.
I was thinking it while we were listening to the show, while we were recording rather, between him, who is not necessarily an academic, compared to someone like Professor Paul Cartledge, who is a good friend of his and is a genuine ancient Greek academic. There's very little difference between the two. The level of understanding and the level of knowledge that both of them have, and Stephen in particular, unbelievable.
Well, he's not just an actor. So Stephen, I think, is a student of whatever he's acting.
Definitely.
So when he goes out and does an audio book on the one called Mythos, and of course he's done the Odyssey, and he's done quite a few of them, but the latest one's the Odyssey. But when he does that, I think he's the sort of dude who actually becomes does a PhD in the particular topic that he's about to deal with.
Yeah.
And I guess, I don't know, but I've watched him and listened to him a million times over. He's not just academically gifted when it comes to the subject matter, but he's also really good at challenging all the traditional discussions around it too. Like right down to things like, for example, and he takes a position which I like about him. For example, the marbles, the stolen artifacts out of Greece, and I love the fact that he takes a position. He's a pom, and he stands up for what he reckons is right, and he's and he goes against what he thinks is wrong.
Yeah,
definitely. And that's it. He's got a valid argument as well. I think with him, you got to listen to every word he says. He packs so much information in every sentence.
His language is beautiful.
It is.
There's a beauty in there's a poetry in the way he speaks.
Singing, yeah.
Yeah, like it's lyrical, and it's nearly, you can nearly feel it. You know, I love listening to him. I just love listening to him. Of course, the Odyssey is allegedly written by Homer. Who knows? But allegedly written by Homer. But it's like 2,700 odd years or 2,800 years ago, whatever it is. Whether or not Homer wrote it or not doesn't matter. But it's written in prose, so it's sort of like it's not written like a normal fiction. And the way he uses his Stephen Fry, that is his lilt in his voice, he sort of conjures you in. He sort of drags you into the story and think, hang on, I'm really interested, because I've actually read it as well.
Yeah,
and it wasn't as enjoyable for me to read these things. So I bought the book Mythos. It's not as enjoyable for me to read it as it is to listen to it.
I agree.
In fact, I could fall asleep quite easily. I might read 10 pages and I'll just get weary. But when he's speaking, I feel like someone's got inside my head.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's a great get for you guys. It's an unbelievably good guess. Good on you.
Thank you so much.
By the way, I'm jealous.
Well, like I was saying off air, I couldn't believe that. I thought for sure Mark's going to get him. For sure, we're gonna wake up tomorrow and Stephen's going to be on the show. It didn't happen. You got to get him next time.
I'm going to try now. I'm definitely going to try him now because next time. But we got to. No, but I didn't know he was here. Yeah. So, or maybe my team did. Perhaps I'm going to ask him. But I didn't know he's here, and I only sort of found. I don't know. Did you release that stuff last week? Was it last week?
That was last week.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Yeah, so like I only found out about it when you guys released it. And it's only so fresh.
Yeah.
I haven't even had time to ask my guys yet. But I will be. Don't worry about that.
There you go. Well, mate, happy to work for you if you want.
We can
keep you in the loop.
Let's merge.
Absolutely.
Great idea.
Well, okay.
By the way, before you go on, I'm going to help you. Talking about people who should be on your podcast, I'm going to call him out now. Peter V'landys, chairman of the NRL, the ARL Commission. Please, Pete, you got to get yourself on this show. Greeks want to hear from Peter V'landys. They want to hear the Peter V'landys story. Now, you were on my show, Pete. We did a live podcast together, and it was very enjoyable. It was 2 years ago, I think, and you were brilliant. I think that the Greek community would in fact, I know the Greek community demands to hear Peter V'landys. So I would imagine, I don't know, but you guys told me, he would have to be one of the most requested people from the Greek community to be on
He absolutely
podcast.
is.
He's up there, and it's continuous. The last three years we've been on air,
especially with all the work that he's been doing across both sports, obviously in racing and in rugby league. Both of those sports seem to be, they've never been in a better position than this, surely.
Well, we love what Peter V'landys does. He's a great icon for Australian Greeks, but he's just great for rugby league in Australia. Just been fantastic. He's doing a fantastic job. But it'd be just nice to know a little bit more about him.
Yeah,
like behind the scenes stuff.
100%.
BTS. So
well done, Mark.
I'm calling him out. Peter V'landys, Ouzo Talk. It's for you, mate.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Peter, if you're listening, mate.
Pete, we'll be in touch.
There's how many bottles of Ouzo have we got now?
We got heaps.
40.
Tsipouro. Oh, here he's from Kithera. What do they like?
Yeah.
Well, they love a bit of everything.
Tsipouro, Ouzo.
If it was Kithera, we won't want to pay for it.
Yeah.
We didn't say that.
We
Mark.
got you covered.
No, I told him. My father used to say the Kitherians would jump over the gate to save the hinge. But that's why they're so good at business. Have you ever met a broke Kitherian?
No.
They're always multi-billionaires and millionaires. Anywhere
true.
they are in the world, they kill it.
Wow. Unbelievable.
And he's
I
killed
love
it.
that. Jump on the fence to save the hinge.
That's brilliant.
That is a classic. Mate, you are too right. We know so many Kitherians, and yes, they are.
They're great business people.
They are.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
They're great people and great business people.
Great,
as
and
well.
a beautiful place to go. So,
Yeah.
Pete, you got it all, mate. Come and tell us. Teach us. Educate us.
Absolutely.
Well done.
I'll be listening to that one for sure.
Brilliant.
Mate, how do we move on from there?
We're
I don't
finished.
know.
It's over.
It's finished.
It's
Mate,
over.
We're done.
Thanks, Mark. See you next season. Now, look, let's get into it. Let's have a drink. What do you reckon, Nick?
Yep, let's have a drink.
All right. Stiniyamas.
Cheers, boys.
Yeah,
Welcome back, Mark.
tsipouro.
Tsipouro, yes.
Well done.
Well,
Local,
this one,
local.
it is not local. This is from Crete, 35N, which we've had a lot of this stuff. Like these guys, Mark, if you haven't tried them, they have what we think is possibly the best ouzo going around at the moment.
Wow.
Genuinely.
Like Plumari is the one everyone used to talk about.
Correct.
Yeah, that's good too. But they're like they're a bunch of mates that got together, had a distillery, and then they've made this amazing tsipouro, which is like tsipouro, but the Cretan version, and amazing ouzo. So they're called 35N. So 35N stands for the parallel north of, the equator, which goes right through Crete. That's how it's got its name. So the 35N parallel goes through, I think, Adelaide, they said as well. Nick was saying. So it goes. It's the same sort of terrain that Adelaide, and they make the beautiful wines, and they got ouzo there and beautiful wines in Crete as well. So,
well, it tastes pretty good. So
yeah,
it's a good one. This is one of the better ones, honestly. And it comes to us courtesy of the Greek Providore, does it not, Nick?
It does. Yes, Greek Providore, Crystal brings it in all the way from Crete. Keep it up, Crystal. We can't get enough of it. Keep on bringing it in.
That Greek Providore, but that website's pretty good, and you can get some pretty cool stuff on there. I actually buy stuff on there.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I buy stuff from the Greek Providore website. I bought really fancy olive oil bottles.
Yes.
They're nicely bottled. Actually beautifully bottled.
Do you have the governor?
Yes, I've had that one.
The one from Corfu.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I've had that one.
He's a mate of mine.
Is he?
He's from the very next village. We're good friends with.
Really?
Yep.
No, because I haven't bought anything this year, but I bought stuff last year and I gave away as gifts.
Yeah, right.
For Christmas.
Yeah, wow.
Actually, they do hampers. So if you want to,
They've got a hamper, have they?
Yep.
Like Christmas hamper.
Or pick what you want, basically. So Crystal was saying to me
She'll
the other
make it
day,
into a hamper.
She'll make it into a hamper for you.
Yeah, because I was actually buying gifts and just giving it to friends, like there was the good Christmas gift staff and stuff like that. Because
it's great stuff.
It's beautifully packaged. The bottles are great.
Yeah.
Particularly, I was getting olive oil. I got a few other things too. I can't remember what it was now, but I got mostly olive oil. But I'm really into olive oil at the moment. We'll talk about it later, but I'm really into olive oil.
That's a good thing.
And polyphenols that are in olive oil. So we'll get down that. We'll go down that rabbit hole a bit later.
Project 100. Yep. We'll talk about that. Can't wait.
Well, before we move on to all that, is what we have St. Nicholas Senior Aged Care Centre as well from over there in Punchbowl. We said this the last couple of episodes. The place is so good. Like, I want to live there. And we were talking about it's got the cinema,
you get up in the morning, go and have a coffee, go to the gym for a workout. They got like 3 or 4 coffee areas or restaurants within one complex. Then you can go get your hair done, and then you go to the movies at night. So you don't have to leave the complex. How good is that?
I don't want to.
Hey?
I would stay there.
But it's in a great area, Mark. It's in Punchbowl.
Yeah, my old stamping ground.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's my old territory. Which part of Punchbowl though? Because I was more on the Narwee side. I was on the south side of Punchbowl.
Tom's going to look it up right
It's on
now.
Henry Street in Punchbowl. So
Mind you, I haven't been hanging around there lately.
I tell you what, it is a really nice area, honestly. I mean, Punchbowl tends to get the odd bad rap nowadays, but honestly, this is a great area.
Mark was going there because they're Bulldog supporters.
Yeah.
He's the Roosters. So
Well, I used to be a Bulldog supporter. Well, they weren't called the Bulldogs when I supported them. They're called the Berries.
yeah.
And you played flag for them, did you
No,
not?
SG Ball.
SG Ball.
Yeah, SG Ball.
There you go.
And then I at flag age, I moved over to the east suburbs where I went to uni, and I basically never left. So flag in those days was under 18s. SG Ball in those days was, I think, under 16s. And
It's changed a few times now, hasn't it?
Yeah, and there was no
Harold
Matthews.
Matthews. Yeah.
There was no Harold Matts in those days.
Yeah.
But we're going back a long time. Well, for me, it's 43 years ago
Bloody hell.
when I
Mate,
played.
looking at you, you could still play. You look fit.
We said it last time. Like, you were in top nick.
Oh, in fact.
Well, I'm good for me.
You're in
Me
good
and Mike
nick in
Tyson.
general.
I reckon I'm better. I reckon I'm fitter than Mike Tyson. Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
on that.
okay.
What
What's
did you
your
think
thoughts
of
on
the fight?
that?
I was disappointed.
In what
I
way?
was disappointed in the spectacle. So I expected, and there's the old saying, lower your expectations, you get less disappointments.
Yes.
But my expectation was based on the promos that I was seeing, and I was watching Mike, throw 1,000 punches in 30 seconds, and look like devastatingly, and looked like he was Mike Tyson of old. And logically, I should have worked out no one is at 58 can be the Mike Tyson of old. Nobody. No one even could have been in Mike Tyson if they were young either. It's just impossible because it's just one off. So I was disappointed with the spectacle, but when I thought about it logically, I'm not surprised. Equally, I was a bit disappointed in the way Paul was too, like Jake Paul. Like I just thought, he's not that good. He's had some sanctioned fights, 9 fights, now 10 fights. He's a decent boxer, but he's not going to be able to fight anybody, who's a proper heavyweight fighter.
But you are right. I mean,
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
did you know an SMS is read within 3 minutes of delivery? And that SMS is still the #1 business communication tool? Let Agility help you connect with your customers with a cheap and effective SMS solution. As one of Australia's top business SMS providers, Agility helps you and your business deliver your message, track campaign success, and drive customer action. Visit agility.com.au or call 1300 764 451 and chat to Peter and his team to see how SMS can help your business. Agility, proud sponsors of the Ouzo Talk podcast. Do you have a loved one in need of aged care? St Nicholas Senior Care Centre in Punchbowl provides premium, personalised support that doesn't just support your loved one's needs, but respects their independence. Providing a premium, welcoming community within which your loved one can flourish, you'll rest easy knowing that your loved one is in a safe, caring environment that doesn't just feel like family and home, but really is. Visit acare.au or call 02 8313 2200 to see how St Nicholas can assist your loved one. St Nicholas Senior Care Centre, proud sponsors of the Ouzo Talk podcast. There's no Ouzo Talk without a bottle of Ouzo, which is why we love the Greek Providor. Get a real taste of the very best produce that Greece has to offer. From olive oils and delicious artisan sweets to unique spirits, earthy herbs and memorable wines. Visit thegreekprovidor.com.au to see their amazing range. The Greek Providor, proud sponsors of the Ouzo Talk podcast. In the lead up, especially before that first exhibition fight that Tyson did a couple of years ago, you're right. That was,
You did with Roy Jones. You did with Roy Jones Jr.
Yeah, that's right.
Did you think so? There's been a couple.
That was
of
4
clips,
years ago.
There's a couple of clips on X now to say that Tyson was holding back. There's a couple of scenes where he'd come in. You know, he sort of shimmies left and right. He came in on his right with his power punch, and he didn't throw it. He held it, and if he did throw it, he would have clobbered him.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Then it was a stitch up. Then, if that's the case,
Yeah.
I hope it wasn't.
Yeah.
Look, it was an unbelievably clever thing that Netflix did. That was probably
Definitely.
the thing I stood in awe of
and
mostly.
Jake and Paul as well from a promotional
From
perspective.
his point of view. But mind you, he doesn't need to. Like, he's the most highly followed or the most followed boxer in the world.
Yeah.
There's no boxer who has anywhere near the following he has. I don't know if he needed to do it. I think it was probably Netflix got the biggest advantage out of it.
Yes.
I was glad you didn't have to pay for it.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
would have been filthy if I had to pay for it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the fight before was good. The
The two
women.
fights before it. The welterweight world title fight was a ripper.
Yeah.
The one before the two girls. I've watched those two girls fight before. That was great as well.
Yeah. That was a bit controversial too.
Yeah,
supposedly.
but I'm not sure, Nick. Like, I take the view, like if you're in a boxing match, she didn't do that. She didn't headbutt with the head purposely, but she uses her head to direct traffic. So a lot of times.
I mean, in the result. So the lady that lost, I forget what Amanda, I think her name. She threw more punches and landed more. She had a better percentage rate, but she didn't win.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I
interestingly, early on in the Tyson Paul fight, that was the case as well for Tyson, and it just dropped off like really quickly, apparently.
Yeah.
All the way through. So it was.
But she didn't. She had better. The other girl had better hits.
Yeah.
More. Her significant punches were better.
Yeah.
Or more significant than her opponent.
Yeah.
I just
It's
thought.
just hard to judge boxing sometimes.
And
Like if, say for example, I'm in a fight with someone and I'm punching him the whole, round. In the last 5 seconds, I get knocked down. So who wins that round?
bloke had knocked down. It's a 10-9 round.
10-9. But even if
the guy doesn't knock down. So not you. If you get knocked down,
if I got knocked down,
that's a 10-9.
Okay, but even if I jabbed him and punched him the whole round,
10-9.
Yeah. See, I don't know. I don't agree with that. I don't think. I think if you're clever
You
enough,
want to change the rules. Now.
that's why it's really hard to score. It's really hard to score. But anyway, we'll move on. Again,
Well,
this is a good debate.
I want to take advantage of something, though, because Netflix, I mean, it was a great thing for Netflix. Your involvement in rugby league, can you foresee a time where something like Netflix would be the go-to?
That's a big question. I think right now the NRL's got to maybe sit back and try and work out who they want to sell the rights to.
Because it's coming up, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I would imagine Foxtel are desperate to keep the footy.
Solid nine.
Nine would be two. I would have thought. Then you got Netflix hunting around. It's probably got more money than everybody else. I don't know what their financial position is, but it's a lot easier for me just to watch on one channel. I think there should be some intense bidding. And maybe Netflix gets the State of Origin. Maybe Foxtel gets something. Maybe Nine gets something else. I don't know. It could get spread around. But we talked about him before. We got the master sitting right there, and he's like conducting the orchestra, and that's Peter V'landys.
Yeah.
He'd be playing them all off a break now.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Now, you've got such a great product. You're in high demand. Why not?
Yeah, and would have to be one of the biggest sporting products in this country for sure.
Yeah.
And now we're international. Now we're playing in Vegas. We've got the LA Roosters. Roosters even got his team over there now.
Yeah.
I mean, it won't be before long others start to follow us.
Yeah.
And it won't be long before the girls' game gets played there.
Yeah.
It'll get played there too. And I went to Vegas this year. It was unbelievable. It was such a good experience. It was ridiculously good. The hospitality was good. The Americans were good towards us. Vegas is a great place to hold these things. Vegas is a great host of sporting events. And that stadium was incredible. Like, it's air conditioned. It was freezing outside. It was so cold. And you go in there and you just sit there like this.
How big is the gap between stadiums here and something like Allegiant Stadium?
Well, Legion's fully covered in.
Because Allianz is great.
I wouldn't say it's much better than once you're in Allianz, but like if it rains, you're in trouble with Allianz. So here you feel completely enclosed and in a good way, completely enclosed against all the elements. So even if it's a crappy cold night, you can just have your T-shirt on, you feel comfortable. If it rains, you're comfortable. If it's windy, there's no wind effect on it. If the wind's not blowing the ball left, right and centre, there's no wind advantage or disadvantage. It's a fairer footy field in that regard, and it's got a massive crowd. But relative to Allianz, when it comes to all the lighting and the way Allianz stages it very well, it's
I think it's an American thing. Americans are really good at entertainment. They know how to put on a good show,
especially Vegas.
Yeah,
the combination's fantastic. There's a million places you can go to. If you want to go and see this or that, we all went down to the Sphere and experienced the technology sort of stuff, and and you sit in a room, and I was sitting there with Nick Plitus, and we're experiencing climbing up mountains and like heli sports, and both of us are terrified of heights, so we're both sitting there, and the chairs are moving, and
white knuckles,
earthquakes and everything. So you can really have a good time. Like you can, if you like gambling, go gambling and all that sort of stuff, and drinking, etc. But if you just want to be entertained, there's a million things to do.
Yeah.
Players love it.
Yep.
The players, most of them never even travelled before.
Yeah.
And
they can't. It's hard for them to travel.
Well, they're young too.
Yeah, true.
A lot of them never been to America.
Yeah.
Here they are in Vegas.
Yeah, exactly.
We had our boys in LA.
Yeah.
And we sent them to UCLA. They trained at UCLA. They went and watched some football, NFL games.
Yeah.
We got them to, they experienced stuff with baseball players, and we got coaches to come and talk to them. Like, it's a massive experience. It's such a good vibe that the NRL's done here.
The reels you guys did on YouTube, I think Manly did a good one as well. And like you said, they play in winter, so they can't go northern hemisphere because it would be freezing cold. So they don't really get to travel, I'd say, because they'd spend summer here in Australia. So
I just thought it was brilliant.
It
really was brilliant. Whether they make any money out of it or not, I don't know the answer to that part. But in terms of promoting the games,
it's a long game.
It is a long game. And V'landys sees way ahead of everybody. Look what he's done with the Everest and all those races he put on, like the week before the Melbourne Cup.
Yeah,
the big dance. Yeah.
The big dance.
I was there.
Yeah,
it's members.
That's
great.
Amazing stuff. Let's get him on the show.
Here it is again. Come on, Pete.
Good stuff. Well, look, let's start with that American theme. So I don't know about you, but for me personally, I don't know about you, Tom, but all the talk was politics. Trump, Kamala, everyone I spoke to. I don't know if it was in my algorithms. I saw it everywhere I went for the last 3 months. Everyone had a view, and I felt you had to pick a side. Like you couldn't be on the fence anymore. There was like a big wedge. You had to go, Trump or Kamala, and they were both at each other. Even here in Australia, even though we don't vote, everyone had a view and opinion. What's your thought on all that?
It's funny you should say that, because I got a view that across the world, across the globe, or at least the developed nations, we've been asked to take a side for everything, just about everything, like Palestine, Gaza,
True.
Yep.
Lebanon, Israel, Russia, Ukraine, 2030, 2050, like, and if you don't pick a side, there's something wrong with you. And if you pick a side and it's the side, not the side someone else is on, there's still something wrong with you. So, like, I'm not surprised that the US election was run that way. And I wonder whether or not certain parts of politics are becoming quite divisive, actually setting out to divide us, and you can't sit on the fence anymore. And the politicians can't sit on the fence anymore. And social media sort of plays in this a fair bit, because it seems like the noisiest people are the minorities.
That's true.
Great call out.
Absolutely.
It seems like the noisiest people are the minorities. And fair enough, because they know they're minorities. They know, well, hang on, I haven't got the momentum of the majority behind me, so I've got to make a lot of noise. Why don't I make a lot of noise? Because this is the minorities. I fervently believe in my cause, and I wanted to get it across the line. So I'm going to make a lot of noise, hoping the media will pick it up. And then the media pick it up and run with it.
Yep.
And they get the noisy minority get rewarded. And when I say minority, I don't mean that in a pejorative sense. I'm not having a crack at minorities.
Yeah.
But they get rewarded by the outcome of the media, and they think, hang on, well, that worked. So another small group over there who wants to be heard saw that event, and they say, well, let's do the same thing. And then you got this Lego effect, or those checkers effect of it. Just because every little group then starts to say, hang on, if we get that political party in our favour, and we've got to let them know that we'll vote for them if they give something good to us. And if we make lots of noise, and you get lots and lots of these around the place, all of a sudden you've got a political party that panders to a whole lot of minorities, makes up the numbers, don't get me wrong, but also then you've got lots of, or too many bosses. If you're the politician and you've got 50 minority parties that you're looking after, prosecuting for, then all of a sudden you've got 50 bosses, because you've got 50 people telling you what to do. And I think that was Kamala's problem. Trump just went to basics. He just said, listen, it's not about environment. It's not about Israel or Lebanon or Palestine. It's not even about abortion. It's not even about women's rights. It's about the economy and our borders, safety. Reduce it to two basic fundamentals.
Security. That's what every
Security
human
and
element is.
I want to feel safe in my country.
Yeah.
It's not because I don't like foreigners. I just want to feel safe in my country.
Yeah.
And I want to have enough money to be comfortable with my family.
Yeah.
So get the economy right and secure my border. Doesn't mean no one can come in, but just secure the border so I feel like I'm pretty safe. The rest of the stuff is stuff we want to consider, but we consider that after we get the first two right. It's a bit like, when you get on the airplane, they say, now listen, if the oxygen mask drops down, put it on your face first.
Correct.
That's a great analogy.
So you can breathe the oxygen, because if you can't breathe the oxygen, you can't help anyone else. Well, I know in my family, I want to make sure my family's safe and economically well looked after. I can't even look after happiness. It's nothing to do with me.
But look, just in saying that, it sounds like most of the Americans agreed with you, because
I think so.
270 was the college votes they need to hit, like 312 or 316. Some people are saying that's a landslide.
Yeah.
So regardless of what we're listening to, saying it's going to be close and Kamala might win, it was so far from the truth. It was the other way around.
I think the polls, one of the issues of the polls in America at least, is people don't want to admit they vote for Trump.
Yeah.
So I think the polls might have been correct in terms of what people answered, but what they weren't correct in is what people didn't answer.
Yeah.
So I think that's the first thing.
Silent majority.
Silent majority. Trump made it pretty. He's very good at basics, and he said things like, in order to bring this economic issue home, do you feel as though you are as well off today as you were when I was president? If you weren't, if you are not, and by the way, interest rates have been high, inflation's cost of living's skyrocketed there, like everywhere in the world. It's a pretty simple answer is no, I don't.
Yeah.
It's a pretty simple question.
Yeah. I think people underestimate what he does. He's a businessman. He deals with massive corporations, and he wheels and deals. And when you're running a country, I'm assuming it's the same thing.
He's got good advice.
Good advice.
She might have raised more money, and she was really good at, I think, and I'm not by no means American expert here, but just my observation, she's really good at getting the fancy stuff in there, like all the singers and the movie stars and all that sort of stuff. But people today look through that stuff. I mean, 20 years ago that worked.
Yeah, not now.
Especially young people, they understand all this influencer stuff. You know, you paid that person to say that, or somehow they're in your pocket, or if they aren't, I don't believe it.
Yeah.
So Trump went back basic stuff.
Yeah.
Do you feel as well off as you are today as you were before? There's too many people coming into the country. 10 million people coming to the country. That, they're taking your jobs.
Yeah.
Like, straight up.
Yeah.
You're going to say, hang on.
That's the interesting thing, because the friends and family, for example, that we do have over there, of which we have many, the answer to that question was things were better under him, interestingly. And it's, that's not to say that it was an easy thing for them. I know in my family, there are people not talking to each other because of the way that they voted. But
yeah, totally. Well, it's very emotional, this.
Yeah, very. Like, they were talking civil war at one stage.
Yeah. No, well, it would have been civil war maybe for the other way if it had been a different result.
Yeah.
The Democrats are just upset. I think there's a lesson here to be learned by our own current government here. Nowhere near as bad as the Democrats were, but they've got to be careful. They've got to be careful.
So I think Australian politics, again, it's only my view, I think we're very centre-left, centre-right. We're sort of the same, but Americans are very extreme other end.
Yeah, well, they're extreme with everything, though. Yeah, relatively speaking, compared to us.
Yeah,
they're much more strident in everything they do. Yeah, us Aussies, we still got a lot of who gives a shit,
Well, I can't remember who it was that said it to me. They pointed out the fact that in Australia, we're one of very few nations who would boo their head of state at a sporting event, and it's part of that whole keep the bastards honest thing. Yeah. That wouldn't happen in the US.
But then we cheer them when they scull a schooner at the cricket.
Yeah, good on you, Bob Hawke.
Exactly.
Well, boy, but Australians also, compared to Americans, we have to vote. I don't know whether it's going to be the same outcome, because we're forced to vote. Americans, what Trump managed to do is get more people to come out and vote for him than the Democrats managed to get to come out and vote for them. So she wasn't strong enough to make it compelling that Democrats should come out and vote for her. Whereas he was more compelling.
Yeah, true. And she just got dropped in the last minute.
Yeah.
And also she had Biden. I don't know from, again, what I read, maybe it's the algorithms I'm in, they never got on. Biden's people might not have voted for her, or so. And
they should have gone to a convention, really. In hindsight, and hindsight's a wonderful thing, but they probably should have found someone else. They probably
before they endorsed him.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as I understand, he didn't want to step down.
Yeah.
He wouldn't step down.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in the end, he was forced to.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now we know Trump's in. So he's at 6th of Jan. When is his
inauguration?
6th Jan. So what does it mean for Australia now? Is it a good thing now? Because from again what I'm reading, he's going to put all these tariffs up for China, and which we may get impacted, because if China can't produce, we can't sell our iron ore, and we might get impacted. So what's your view on Trump, and how's that going to impact us in Australia?
Well, he's made it pretty clear he's going to impose a 50% or 60% tariff on China, which will affect the export of goods from China to America. So the first thing that'll do is, to the extent the Americans do buy the products with the 60% extra price on it, that straight up is inflationary. So that'll create inflation in the United States. Then whatever it is being exported or imported into the United States, if it's componentry of another product that we import into Australia, that means the price of our product is going to be more expensive. So we will import inflation into Australia. That's the first thing. That's never good, because we don't make that many goods, generally speaking. Most of the stuff we get is imported. That's one. So we could have some imported inflation, but time will tell. That's the first thing. Second thing is China, Japan, Korea account for about 75% of all our exports. 75%.
It's huge.
And China is by far the biggest percentage of the three. So if China is not doing as well, so China's already got an economic problem. Things aren't great in China already. and it already definitely has a major problem when it comes to the housing market. So there's like apartments that just plummeted, apartment valuations just plummeted. They've just started off some quite stimulatory sort of economic stimulus there in terms of interest rates, etc. But if China then all of a sudden can't sell as much as it normally would sell, because Americans are going to say it's too expensive, unless China can find alternative markets, which I don't know whether they can or they can't, but unless they can find, then China could start to sort of flatten off a bit. So we do three things for China. We help them produce steel with our iron ore. You can't produce steel without iron ore. And steel is necessary for building machinery and all those things that produce the stuff that they export.
Cars, factories.
Cars are a good example.
Yeah.
And cars will be one of the big ones that's affected.
Yep.
That's the first thing we do. We produce iron ore in order for them to produce steel. We produce coal in order for them to produce the thing that melts the iron ore to make it steel. So we give them their thermal heat. So if they can't make steel and they have to pull back on the amount of steel they don't need as much iron ore. They also don't need as much coal. And the third thing we produce from is protein. So we export meat, fish was crustaceans, but meat and fish, and wheat, and lamb, lots of proteins. If China slips into a recession, then just like any other place in the world, people stop spending money. So they may require less protein from us. We have been lucky because as China is building, a new city every week of 1 million people, people from the land are coming into the cities, and because before when they were in the land they produced their own protein, they're now not producing protein, so they're now living in the city, and they have a job in the city, they need to buy protein. So we were lucky. That sort of dragged us along through the GFC period right through to now, exporting a lot of protein to China. But if some reason Chinese people start to say, well, I'm not as wealthy as I was before, we're going to have to cut back on protein. One of the first things people cut back on in food is protein, because that's one of the most expensive components.
Sure.
They tend to eat rice, and then they'll go into
Pasta.
the carbs, pasta and stuff
bread.
like that. That's where they'll go. Maybe China will be rice or something. It won't be pasta and bread, maybe. But less meat. Because that's an expensive item. So all those three things are bad for us in terms of our export of our products. We export a lot of stuff, and export's a huge trade for us. China's then become less wealthy. They one of our third biggest export after resources. Our third biggest export is education in Australia. So, and mostly they come from China. Chinese kids getting educated in Australia, schools and universities. Massive. It's our third biggest export. So if parents can't afford to send their kids because they're not making as much money, because they're not selling as much stuff in the United States, and the cost of living has gone up much higher in China, they might, I don't know, I'm speculating, but they might say, well, listen, son, I can't afford to send you to Australia anymore. You're going to have to get educated in China or in Hong Kong or somewhere like that. So we could suffer. Now, we don't know whether we will or we won't. The same question goes in the United States. This very question has been asked in the United States, but Jerome Powell, who is their Federal Reserve equivalent to our governor of our Reserve Bank, their Federal Reserve, he just said, he just dismissed it all last week and put the interest rates down by 25 basis points. He said, I'll wait and see what the Trump effect is. Because Trump's also doing a whole number of other things too. I mean, sure, there might be some inflationary thing he's doing, but he's also going to create a more prosperous America because of these tariffs, because he's going to build industry in America. People might start earning more money. So as a result, the cost of living might not go up that much relative to wages, because it's about standard of living. How much cost of living can go up as long as my wages go up and my revenue goes up. It's all about measuring my standard of living. Has my standard of living gone down or is it going up? So Trump could do some great things. Who knows? I would expect he's going to create more productivity in America.
Okay.
We'll see.
Very interesting.
So we're on the fence then. So we don't really know if it's a good thing or a bad thing for Australia.
It could be both.
Could be both.
In the beginning, it might be bad, then in the end, it might be better. But all we can do is control what we can control here in Australia. So if I'm in business, I got to work out what I can control. One thing, it's like that story about David and Jacob. They're in the jungle, and David looks behind his back and he says to Jacob, there's a tiger coming towards us, and you're not worried. And Jacob says, why don't you be worried, David? All I have to do is outrun you. And that's how business is. We can't control whether the tiger's coming or not.
Yeah.
But I do know whether I can beat my competitor.
Yeah.
So if I've got a cafe,
Yeah.
and my competitor is open 6 days a week at 6 a.m., I'm going to be open 7 days a week at 5:50.
Yeah.
And if he closes at 2, I'm going to close at 2:30.
Yeah.
And if his sandwiches are $5.80, mine are going to be $5.75, a little bit better and with a smile.
Yeah.
And I'm going to remember everybody's name. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's what I'm
correct.
talking about.
Yeah.
And it's not just cafe, but any business. Just
Yeah.
outrun.
So I remember when Trump was in last time, Malcolm Turnbull struck some sort of a deal because I think Trump was going to impose tariffs on Australia as well. But he struck some sort of a deal and there weren't tariffs on Australia.
Correct. That did happen last time. But he has talked about tariffs for everybody. Much less, though.
Okay.
I think he's talking about 10 or 20% for Australia.
Yeah.
There's not that much stuff we export to America.
Okay.
We're not a big exporter really to anyone other than resources.
Yeah. We'd be importing more than exporting with
We
the
import more
US.
than we export, yes.
Yeah, so hopefully we get...
So I don't know whether that will cause too much damage to Australia
Yeah.
in
Okay.
itself.
All right. So we'll wait and see, Tom.
That's all we can do.
The big question is, do you think we'll slip into a recession or not?
Outside of all that, if I just put all that aside,
Yeah.
well, so far so good, but we're very close at the moment. So let's be clear on what a recession means. It means 2 negative quarters of GDP growth. And I don't really care if we have 2 negative quarters of GDP growth because I don't think it means that much. Where I would be worried about a recession is if we had an unemployment recession. Mm-hmm. So, and
Makes
it doesn't
sense.
look like it's going to happen at the moment because right at the moment we're still at 4.1% unemployment, which is, by the way, we're used to that. But by the way, if you look at the long-term average, that is like a record. Like in the last 50 years, our unemployment's always been above 5%.
Yeah. It's pretty good.
Except since COVID.
Yeah.
Since COVID started.
Yeah.
Well, when COVID first started, it went up to 8 or 9%, but then
But it was on JobKeeper.
they give JobKeeper and all that sort of stuff out. But our unemployment's went down to 3.2 about 18 months ago. That is an all-time record for us.
Yeah.
At 4.1, it's sitting stubbornly at 4.1. So I don't think we'll have an unemployment recession. Because I think before that happens, the Reserve Bank will reduce interest rates, and that'll be enough to stimulate the country.
Which was going to be my next question. What are your thoughts on where these interest rates are going? I mean, the Reserve Bank's been pretty stubborn over the last, how many ups have they? 13 rate rises in the last.
But
2
the
years,
last
I
2
think
or
it is.
3 have been stable.
It's been
now.
stable.
We had 13 rate rises, but at 25 base. We had 13 rate rises, but we had 3 rate rises at 50 basis points. So we've actually had 16 rate rises in a normal cycle. And the word they use is resolute. So the Reserve Bank says we remain resolute in reducing inflation down to the band, 2.5%. If we just pick the number between 2 and 3%, that's 2.5, obviously. What do I think is going to happen? I think we definitely won't get. There's a meeting in December. We definitely won't get a rate reduction in December. I didn't expect we were going to get a rate reduction on Melbourne Cup Day, which we did not have. The language is starting to change a little bit from the Reserve Bank. They're starting to say we didn't consider rate rises, where they were considering rate rises in August, September.
Okay.
They did say we were considering a rate rise, but decided not to. Now they're not saying anything about we were considering rate rise. They're just saying we're not going to do a rate reduction. She's been very clear there'll be no rate reduction this calendar year. So there's not going to be any Christmas presents for anybody. I think what she's going to be looking for, and pundits can look for this themselves, she's hoping the Australian Bureau of Statistics, when it releases its data at the end of January next year, for the December quarter and for the 12 months ending December, she's hoping to see, this is what I think she's hoping to see, a 4.5% unemployment number. She wants to see it go up a bit. That's what they call the non-accelerating inflation rate of unemployment. They have modelled what they consider to be the rate of unemployment that we need to have where inflation is neither accelerating nor decelerating. So they've already modelled that.
That's the sweet spot.
That's the sweet
4.5.
spot.
Yep.
We're at 4.1 at the moment.
Yeah.
So I think she wants it, and that number will come out at the end of January. I think that we did get a headline inflation number of 2.8%, 2.7%, I should say, 2 weeks ago. That was the headline rate. When you add on she's not stupid. When you add on all the government initiatives, particularly the $70 a quarter that we get against our electricity bills, our rebates, across the whole country, everyone gets it. You get it, I get it. I don't need it, I get it.
Yeah.
When you add that up, the inflationary effect of that is 80 basis points. So actually, the underlying inflation rate is 3.5
Okay.
currently.
Yeah.
She wants to see that go. That's reducing,
Yeah.
but not quick enough. She wants to see that at 2.5 or somewhere. Definitely got to have a 2 in front of it. So she's hoping that
2
number.
or 3. Yeah, between 2 and 3, I thought.
No, but
She reckons
more.
less.
She definitely doesn't want a 3. She wants a 2 because if
Okay.
it's got a 3 in front, if it's still 3.0,
Yeah.
she won't think it's sustainable. It's got to be a sustainable number. It's got to be like, we believe this is the new inflation number we have right now. There's no growth quarter on quarter, year on year. Growth at 2.5, 2.7 might be the right number, but underlying.
0.5 every quarter, you say.
She would like to see some of that,
Yeah,
and
okay.
probably unlikely, but
Yeah.
that's what she's looking for, and she's looking for GDP, gross domestic product. She wants to see that. If that's negative, that will definitely get her starting to really think about when am I going to reduce rates. She won't reduce rates, but she's definitely starting thinking about when am I going to reduce rates.
Not if, just when.
Just when.
Yeah.
But that in itself, negative GDP, in other words, recession, no. We need to have getting close to an unemployment recession, which is 4.5.
Yeah, okay.
That's what you look for. And that data comes out, I don't know, just after Australia Day. So 28th or something of January, all that stuff comes out. You can work it out for yourself.
Yeah.
The meeting's not until, I think, the 13th of February, the Reserve Bank. Markets will tell us because they'll read that data. But if you just go to the abs.gov.au, the ABS don't tell the Reserve Bank before they tell us. Everyone finds out at the same time on the same day about those 3 things.
Yeah, no, good. I look at that a lot because in my role, I manage contracts and there's always CPI increases. I've got to calculate what it is. Through that. But
well, that's the CPI number.
Yeah.
Inflation is the CPI number.
Yeah, perfect.
So for Yellow Brick Road, for example, what's the sentiment that you're seeing out there in terms of mortgage holders? Has there been an increase in people
Defaulting?
No.
It's funny. Everybody seems to be managing. Like the nature of an Australian
It's
mortgage
very
holder,
interesting, isn't it?
they'll go get a second job or rent out a room in their house before they'll default on a mortgage.
Yeah.
I mean, the psyche of Australian, they'll pump gas instead of having to sell the house.
Yeah.
Because they know in this country, you default, you're going to end up selling your house. So, or the bank will do it for you. So, we're not seeing any kick up or in requests for deferments and stuff like that. I'm not saying we've got none. We have some, but it's in a percentage of what we normally see. No, we saw quite a few during COVID, but not at the moment. I think borrowers also know that this is the end of the cycle. They're pretty smart. Australian borrowers are the smartest mortgage holders in the world. Our behaviour is the best in the world. We behave better than every other mortgage borrower in the world. Anywhere, but we have the best delinquencies in the world, the best arrears in the world. Oh yeah, by a country mile.
Wow.
But like, Australian mortgages are considered to be the best mortgage bond securities in the world. Like, if I'm buying Australian mortgage-backed securities, Australian mortgage-backed bonds, my pricing on those, I mean, relative to Australian interest rates, but my pricing and margin on those is very, very keen because I want that asset because they perform really well over time. You go to countries like, some countries have 17% default rate.
Yeah.
And, and by the way, when the person defaults, you can't get them out of the house for 10 years.
Shit.
You can't get vacant possession if you're a lender to sell the house.
Wow.
So some of the southern European countries, and I won't say which ones, but they're like, it's virtually impossible to get the people out.
Yeah.
Even if they're a tenant, you've got to go to court, and then there's a delay, and there's this, and it just goes on forever. So you never realise your money. So if you're a lender, so Australia's still high performing. We're not seeing any real change. Nothing. It's a slight kick, but nothing. It's just month-to-month changes. We're not really seeing anything at all. And I think, generally speaking, clients they also know too, if they've got to pay out a bank, that they can go and get a loan from a non-bank who might charge them a slightly higher rate, and they can stay in that zone until they recover. Then they go back and refinance back with the bank. So we have so many lending options here in Australia, like heaps of them. And brokers deliver 73% of every loan in this country. And a broker, that's his bread and butter, or her bread and butter. You go and see a broker, he doesn't make money unless he gets the deal settled. And if you're in trouble, he'll find you a lender. You might pay more interest, but he will find you a lender.
Yes.
And then you get through your trouble, then you go refinance back into the banking system.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
There you go, mate. So
So
What do you think? I think we'll be right. Let's just do nothing till January now, and we'll see what happens.
Well, there's not much we
see
can
the Trump
do, really.
effect, but
Well, there isn't. What can you do?
no,
Mate,
just
buckle
enjoy the
down.
summer.
That's been
Go
the
down to the beach
discussion.
and body surf and enjoy the summer and have a few beers.
But that's the discussion that's been happening in every household. Put your head down,
That's right.
wait it out.
It'll be all right. It's going to be okay. It's going to be a punish. I've been through. We've all been through it.
Yeah.
I borrowed during the 90s. Like, it was dreadful. But just
That's what I wanted to ask you, actually,
Yeah.
because I was saying to my old man, actually, it's like, man, these interest rates are, sort of killing us right now. And he goes, mate, when I first borrowed, I was borrowing at 18%. Because don't fucking tell me.
totally. I've been through that.
Yeah,
My interest rate was 17.5%.
yeah, there you go. But the question is that comparable to today?
No,
Are
it's
there
not
different
because
factors?
no, it's not because my income relative to my repayments, because I borrowed a lot less. It's about the difference between your income and your repayments. It's not about how much you repay now. It's not about how much you borrowed now. It's about how much I'm paying on a monthly basis relative to my income. There was a bigger gap.
Sure.
A much bigger gap. Today the gap's much closer. So I think that people actually are in more. It's tougher now to borrow money and to maintain that borrowing now than it was back, say, in the 90s.
Yeah, it makes sense because there's a formula now to say how many pay packets to pay off a house in the 80s to now when it's I don't know the numbers, but it's
You
way off.
could pay your house off much quicker.
In
And
the
by the way,
80s,
if interest rates are 17%, they're not going to last there for very long. And but if you're able to pay it off at 17%, as the rates come down, if you can continue on those payments, you're going to pay your loan off really fast.
Absolutely.
Yeah, true.
Whereas if you're borrowing money, during COVID, you were borrowing money 2% or 1.99%. Then they've gone up to 7% or 6.5%. It's gone the other direction, and that's much harder to maintain.
Yeah.
So if you're been living your life with your wages and your business income with a 2% interest rate, that never lasts.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden it goes to 3 times that amount or more, but your wages don't. That's when you're in trouble. And that's sort of where a lot of Australians are who borrowed during that period.
But if you've managed basically to wait that period out,
You'd be
really
all right.
it's conditioned us to be far more fiscally responsible and be able to
Correct.
make, in the long run, to your point, to be able to pay those those mortgages quicker.
I think there's one point that comes out of all this, though, and I think this point needs to be made. My mate Stephen Koukoulis is doing an exercise on this for me at the moment, but
He's good. I listened to
he's
him.
great.
Yeah.
I reached out to him on the weekend, but he went away for the weekend, but he still managed to answer me. But I'm going to get this exercise done, but so far what it looks like to me is the standard of living of Australians has dropped in the past 3 years on a measured basis. So if we measure the standard of living of all Australians as one group, so that doesn't mean my standard of living's changed or yours has, but the standard of living generally, it's only one measure. There's lots of different measures, there's lots of ways to measure, but one measure of that is you take GDP growth, you take GDP and you divide it by the population. So in other words, how much we produced relative to the size of the population. And then you compare, say, as of today, to the same, pick GDP 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, and divided by the population at the time, the GDP growth per capita has gone backwards.
Right.
So that's one measure of standard of living. GDP just sort of measures what's in dollar terms what our productivity is in the country as a nation. And it's not a perfect measurement because the formula which we use is called the expenditure method. It's not a perfectly weighted method in terms of statistical weighting, but nonetheless, it's if you want to kick it off, all that matters in life is what is our standard of living. What I mean by that is, can my family still afford to do ballet in the afternoon, and some kids, the other kids do swimming, and the other kids play footy, and then can we still afford to have a holiday in Bali, or do we have to go now to Ballina? Nothing wrong with Ballina, but do we have to go to Ballina or Ulladulla? Can we afford to buy that four-wheel drive that we buy every 4 years, or do we have to keep the one we've currently got?
Yeah.
Can we afford to go to dinner once a week and the movies once every Tuesday? If those things are no's, or some of those are a no, that means my standard of living is dropping back.
Yeah.
And that is probably the most important thing in this country right now.
And even more basic, I suspect, is our ability to actually enter the housing market to afford a home. Like, is that still realistic?
That's probably the biggest indicator of standard of living. So when I was, 20, which is a long time ago, in the 80s, I could afford to save a deposit and buy a house or an apartment. Today, and I wasn't getting paid well. I mean, I was just a young guy in my 20s. Today, apart from the fact the rules are much more tough today, they're a lot more. The rules are a lot more investigative. We actually check everything you say. But at least I'd never defaulted on a loan, so I could afford to pay it because I was paying it. So obviously I could afford to pay it if I did lie on my application. Today, that's not the case.
Yep.
You know, save a deposit for a home today, if you're looking in metro areas, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, just by way of example, even Perth, it's largely out of most people's reach, young people's reach, unless mum and dad can help. And that's a standard of living, another measure.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm quite disappointed that our governments, both state and federal, have allowed this to happen. Or maybe it's not their fault. Maybe it's been happening over many years, perhaps, and I'd say that is the case for sure, but they haven't addressed it.
What needs to happen to address it, though?
First admit it.
That'd be a start.
You just say, look, I know whose fault it is. I'm not going to blame the previous administration. We're all to blame, both governments.
Yeah.
Forget this business, Liberal, Labor, whatever. Who cares?
Yeah.
None of
Let's
us care.
address the issue.
Our standard of living's less. We've done some measures. We see that young people can't afford to buy a house near their families. Some people are having to give up all sorts of things as a result of rent increases, and they can't put the kids through this and that and the other. And generally speaking, a census would tell us that 2/3 of the population get the kids to learn music. I'm just making things up, but we can't do that now. So admit it, and then say, but we're going to build a plan. And then 6 months later, here's a plan. We'll start off on these things.
Yep.
But right now, it's just blame game.
Yeah.
And that kills me.
True.
Well, the two classic things is, we're going to blame it on the other party, number one. So it's that, but it's also then the classic one is foreign ownership.
Yeah.
It's one or the other.
Yeah, blame everybody else.
Yeah.
Except that blame yourself.
Yeah.
And I reckon whoever does that wins election.
Yeah,
True.
probably.
Yeah.
Because we're Australians, we don't like BS. We're looking for
we
people.
can read right through that.
We want straight discussions. Tell us the truth.
True.
Yeah, be honest. And the humble person would win.
Would win. And we don't expect you to know everything.
Yeah.
And don't have a solution for everything.
True.
Just say, look, there's a problem.
Well, we'll see how we go. So elections, early next year?
May is the last time they can have it by, which means they'd have to call it in
Quarter 1, 25.
February, March.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll see.
Right. I just want to change tack. So, look, you had a bit of bad luck this year. I heard your old man passed away being a year. Do you want some more?
Have
A little bit?
Come on.
Just a little bit. Fuck it, I'm going to join in.
For some reason, I will. I'm talk with my dad.
Yeah,
we'll talk.
No,
It's time.
Yeah. Yeah, so you had a bit of bad luck, I understand, with your old man beginning of the year, but he had a really good life from what I understand. Wasn't in a nursing home, lived to close to 90.
Yep.
Do you want to just talk about that, and we'll get into the town he was from? What is this?
Yeah. So Dad died, passed away from. I was away. I was actually in Vegas at the game, and this is before the game. And my brother rang me. My brother was actually going in for a hip operation. He said, my sister was in India, working in India. And my sister, she works for a big organisation. She looks after some global part of the business, and she was in India establishing their India offices, and so it was just my brother at home, and he said, we thought Dad had the flu, had the flu, and he was coughing a bit, and every now and then he'd like a little bit of blood, like just a small amount. He felt fine. He said he felt fine. And then my brother rings me one day, I'm in Vegas, and he goes, he said, I've got to get my hip done today. He said, but I've just dropped pop off at the Garvan Institute or the cancer clinic, the Kinghorn Cancer Clinic. He said, the doctor said the blood coming up, you better get a PET scan. So we went and got a PET scan, and my brother rings me back and goes, shit, he said his dad's riddled with cancer, like everywhere, his whole body. Every part of his body, brain, chest, lungs, liver, everything. And I said, oh my God, I've got to come home. He said, Dad said, don't come home, stay, watch the game. He says, there's nothing you can do. They put him into the hospital straight away. My brother's ringing up trying to get a taxi to go to the Martyr or wherever he had to go to get his hip replaced, which is quite stressful, especially for him. Then he went. My brother got his hip replaced, and I kept, ringing Dad. He was okay; he could talk, and he was fine. And then he put him in St Vincent's, and they tried different things, but then it just started to break out. The cancer started coming into his skin, and out of his lymph nodes and stuff like that. It was pretty full on. And then they put him in. So 2 weeks later, they put him in a nurse. What do you call it? One of those intensive care homes.
Yeah.
And
Palliative care.
Palliative care. That's it. And he passed away 2 weeks later. So the worst part about it for me was this: I had to go to work in Singapore for 1 day. I had to be there on a Monday and fly back on the Tuesday night, which would have got me back to Sydney Wednesday morning. It was a long-standing thing I had to do. There was 500 people coming to listen to me. It was pre-booked. People would prepay their accommodations. It was just something I couldn't cancel because I was the headline sort of thing. So I said to Dad on the Monday, he was in the palliative care unit of this hospital. I said to Dad, look, Pop, at this stage he was on morphine and I said, Pop, I've got to go to Singapore today. I'm leaving at 4 o'clock, whatever it was. I said, get there tomorrow morning. I'm going to work for 3 hours. And I said that I'm getting on the flight at 6 p.m. I'm going to be back Wednesday morning. I said to him, don't die. I said, I don't want you to die. All right? You're away from me. I want to see you the last part, And so I did all that. I flew to Singapore. And he nodded his head, and he...
So he's still conscious?
Yeah, totally. And squeezed my hand.
Yep.
I finished my talk. Then I was waiting for the taxi at the hotel, ready to go to the airport at 6 p.m. And I get a text from my brother. He's gone. And Singapore then was 3 hours behind Sydney. It was 6th of February. 6th of March, I should say. 3 hours behind. We hadn't changed clocks back. So Dad must have died at 9 p.m. Unfortunately, he died by himself. I didn't like that idea, like being by himself. Because my brother was in hospital. My sister was in India. And I was in bloody Singapore. Anyway, but I've got to tell you a funny story. So, my dad loved a whiskey. And I don't know if you remember, I told you I built a whiskey brand off the back of
Bird.
the Bird.
Yeah, we
love it.
Thank you. And I'm in the car, and I was feeling pretty bad. I was driving to the airport, get to the airport. I was lucky enough to be on a business class seat. Went into the business class lounge. There was no one there. It was 7 o'clock at night. I think I might have been on an 8 p.m. flight or something like that. I thought, I'll have a whiskey for my dad. And I was just by myself. There was nobody there. It was empty. So I went to the lady behind the bar and I said, which is the best whiskey you got? And she said, I've got these two. And she poured this two out, put it on the table. And one whiskey bottle was Dewar's 19-year-old. 19 on the bottle. I thought that's unusual. Why would they put a 19-year-old bottle? They wouldn't have been 21 or
18 or
something. The 19's weird. So I said, pour me a whiskey, and I poured the whiskey. I spoke to Pop, and I drank the whiskey down, and I took a photograph of the bottle. And I have 4 sons, and I sent a photograph of the bottle back to my 4 sons with the 19 on it. My oldest son then sent me a photograph back, or we're on a group, sent all of us a photo back of a football jersey, Canterbury Bankstown football jersey, the old blue and white stripe one. And on the back of the jersey was number 19. And that was my SG Ball jersey. Now, when I toasted my father, I said, sorry, Pop, I wasn't there. I hope you feel okay, blah, 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 blah. My elder son sent the photograph, number 19, and I said, oh, that's weird. I thought we lost that jersey. It was my jersey. I gave it to him when he was at school to train in. He said, no, Dad, I've kept the jersey. And he said, Dad, what was the significance of number 19 on the jersey? Why were you number 19? They only chose 20 kids. And if we've got time, I want to tell the story.
Yeah, definitely.
Of course.
So my father, when I was 15, my father didn't know anything about rugby league. He was a Greek. Soccer, yes. Rugby, never heard of it. My mother was one of all-girl family.
Yeah.
Never watched a rugby league game in her life. I went to school in Lakemba, and it was a rugby league school. And my best friend at school wanted to play rugby league. And I said to my parents, can I play rugby league? And they said, well, I don't like the idea of it, blah, blah, blah. But if you wanted, no problem. So I played rugby league. It was okay. And when we got to the under-15s, and I played at school the whole time, we had a decent side. The representatives from Canterbury Bankstown came to the school, went to all the schools and all the clubs, and chose some boys to try out to play this year ball. And I didn't get asked.
Yeah.
I didn't think much of it, but at the time I started thinking about it because it happened during the summer, December, January. And my friends are all trying out. and I wasn't. I'd only played a little while. I hadn't played much. And I told my dad, and I said, Dad, I'm not in the side. I didn't get asked to try out. And he said, well, I'll ring up this man called Mr. Lehman, who's the manager, who my dad knew because he was a parent from our school, and ask him, what has he got to do? Can you try out? I said, Dad, he's not going to let that. That won't happen. I don't want you to do it. I feel embarrassed. Dad said, don't worry, I'll do it. And my dad had an accent. He was a typical wog, but just thought anything's possible.
Yep.
Anything's possible.
Yep.
Then Dad worked in a factory. So he came home that night and he said, Mr. Lehman said you can try it. And he said, but you got to start training now because the boys have been training for ages. So Dad came home with 2 pipes, steel pipes from his factory, quite heavy. And Dad said, now every day you got to do these exercises, squats, above your shoulders.
Wow.
And Dad gave me a little exercise regime. It was school holiday, so I did it.
How did
every day.
Your dad know how to do those exercises?
My dad was a boxer, so he knew about training.
Sense. Got it.
Basic training, but no one really did weights and stuff. So I'm doing this stuff all through the summer. And Mr. Lehman says towards the end of the summer period, come and try out. So I tried out. There was like 30, 40 kids there. And trying out. And I thought, I won't never get in this side. But it doesn't matter. I was just happy to try at that stage. Anyway, they chose me as number 19. It was one of the great lessons of my life. And I got a jersey number 19. I was pretty happy, but I was on the bench. Our first game, we played against St George, and we were playing against Robert Stone.
Oh, wow.
And you remember him?
Yeah,
he was my age group.
Front rower.
Big guy, right?
Passed away years ago.
Too, yeah. And Robert Stone just smashed a couple of our blokes, and they went off. And I was playing in the forwards, and I was a pretty big kid, relatively speaking, and I got sent on. Played that game. Then we played a whole lot of, all the other sides, Balmain, blah, 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 Manly. We played, I think, 8 games or something like that. And at the end of the year, we have a thing where you go to awards night. It was at Canterbury Bank St. Lee's Club. My dad was working, so I went with my best friend's dad, and they gave me a best and fairest. And I won best and fairest for the whole season. I had no idea.
Wow.
No idea. I actually didn't feel like I deserved. I felt like my friend deserved because he was actually a gun player. He ended up playing first grade. These guys, a lot of these guys have ended up playing first grade.
The Hughes brothers.
Yeah, the Hughes boys. They're on the same side.
Yeah.
Well, they were the year above me. They're on the same school side.
Yeah.
Anyway, the lesson I learned from this was you want to try something, you can do anything. You don't have to have parents who know what they're talking about. You just have to have some support in your life and someone who believes in you. And when I saw this bottle of whiskey with number 19 on it, I felt like that was my dad telling me, I've always believed in you.
Wow.
How's that?
What a story. I'm getting goosebumps.
Cheers to that.
Cheers. What's your dad's name? What was your
George.
dad's? George. Cheers to George.
Totally. That's...
Well, Zoe se más.
That's what it's us.
Totally.
Yeah. Far out. What a story, eh?
So
Unbelievable.
I felt like he's saying, remember that, Mark.
I'm still with you.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not here physically, spiritually.
I've left that behind. You make sure you tell your boys that. And you tell your I have 3 grandsons now. You tell your grandsons that now. And you tell everybody that. You just need one person to believe in you.
Yeah.
And they've got to have the second person to believe in you is yourself.
Yeah.
Correct.
Believe in yourself, and you can achieve just about anything.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a gifted sports person. I'm no Joseph Akuso Suwali. I don't have that talent. I didn't have a step. I wasn't fast. I couldn't kick.
Yeah.
But because the coaches voted for it, so I must have been doing something right. Anyway, my point is, I'm not trying to say I was a good footballer. I must have been decent. That's about it. But what's important here, and I think everybody should remember this, and I think it's something that Greeks do for their families. We always believe in our kids, and we've got to get our kids to believe in themselves as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's extraordinary, and that's why, the Peter Volandis of the world, they do have good support, and they do believe in themselves, and the Nick Politis of the world, they do have good support, and they do believe in themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that all of us Greeks got to support each other with.
Yeah.
100%.
Wow. How good's that? What a story.
There's
Fantastic.
No better advice you can give,
Yeah,
honestly.
that is amazing.
It's such an important thing.
It is.
I've got to say just quickly before we move on, because I wasn't going to mention it, but we spoke off air about the fact that we lost my grandmother a few days ago, and everything that you just described there virtually mirrored exactly how she went. Yeah, except for the fact that when she did finally go, we were all there for her. But that fucking disease, mate. Yeah, my God.
Well, but Tom, here's the thing: with the 4 horsemen, or the 3 horsemen, or 4 horsemen. First one is cardiac arrest. So
heart disease.
It's by far the biggest killer in the world.
Yeah.
By far.
Yep.
Cancer's number 2. Number 3 is neurodegenerative disease like Parkinson's, etc. Alzheimer's. And the last one's metabolic disease. Like that is you're overweight, you haven't looked after yourself, you've got diabetes and some complication has arisen. We know one of those 4 eventually is going to kill us. And people who die at 110 or 105 or 95, they've died from one of those 4. Yeah. One of those is get them. So if we know that, then we have to start to think about what are we going to do to try and make our life or extend our life through at least one of those, and which one is the most likely one to get us. So then we started to map out our families. Who's got dementia in my family? Like, is dementia a problem for me? I mean, genetically. Who died of a heart attack? Who's died of cancer? Which cancer was it? How can I go and get tested?
Yes.
In my case, my family's bowel cancer. Okay, well then, so a lot of Greece get it.
That's what she went from.
Go get a test.
Yep.
Yeah.
When you're 40, get a good gastroenterologist, get a good GP, go to a gastro guy, girl, say, okay, bung me in, do the up and down, tell me how I'm going. Yeah. Do it every couple of years. That's critical.
The key thing with that generation, though, of people, your dad, my ER, there must have been, I mean, there were signs for her as well, as there must have been for you.
There would have been, but he ignored them.
And they ignored them.
He said, I'm
that's
okay.
The worst part. Yeah.
And we can't, I don't want to be like a generation of hypochondriacs. I'm not saying that either. But
that's the other extreme.
But I want to be a generation of people who are aware.
Yes.
Let's be scientific about it.
Yeah.
Let's write some stuff down. Ask the question of your and papu before they. What happened to your parents? Was there someone in your family who might have dementia? Was there someone like what did auntie die from? It's start to build a little bit of stuff up and say, oh, hang on a minute. There's some probabilities here. Yeah. These are my most, because you're not going to die from all 4 of those things. You die from one of those, hopefully one. Yeah. And so, okay, where's my biggest risk? And then deal with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Start to manage it. Yeah. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So measure it.
Yeah.
You can't manage a secret, as someone said.
Yeah, you can't. If it's just going to be in the back of your mind all the time, and all that will do is give you anxiety. That'll kill you too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But sometimes if you don't know, you can prolong it. So maybe if your dad did own up to it, he might have done a lot earlier. But
Nick, if my dad had gone and if he had got it tested for something maybe a year or 2 before, because it just didn't happen overnight. He literally got diagnosed 4 weeks later he was dead. Yeah. Everywhere, right? But let's say he knew about it a year or 2 before, right? He might have gone, the immunotherapies today, people complain about big pharmas and they complain about our medical system. But one thing I'll say about, they're not good at prevention, but one good thing about our pharmas and our medical profession is that they can cure certain things. They can fix your heart. They can fix your liver. They can put another kidney in if you've got a kidney problem. Yeah. Brain's a bit more difficult. If you've got cancer and get it early enough, they can apply immunotherapy. Yes. Immunotherapy is very effective if you get it early enough. Yeah. It's using your own immune system to beat the disease. So I think that detection it's all about early detection.
Huge.
Yeah,
and that's where Big Pharma's great. They're not great as far as I'm concerned when it comes to things like COVID and vaccinations. I'm not happy about that, just generally, and some of the stuff that they do. But if if you've got something that's life threatening, then you can get
act on it.
Totally. And you've got to find it. You've got to get it before it's life threatening.
And there are things in place, like at the age of 50 now. They send out that kit, for example, so you can do that.
Yeah, I did it. Yeah,
there you go. I mean, these people, that generation is pretty averse to that sort of thing.
But your generation will do it.
Yeah. You know what blew me away? You had her on your podcast. I think I heard her for the first time. Her name's Louise.
Nicola.
Yes, her. Mate, her story, if you haven't done any, because my dad died of dementia, so that's what I freak out about. So anything to do with dementia, I listen or read out and all sort of stuff. But she said, she was on another podcast, but I started to write things down, and she said things like, if your parents have this APOE4 allo gene,
Allele, the gene.
Yeah, it's a
And,
gene.
and
if both
you
parents
both,
have it,
that means you're heterozygous.
exactly, you got a good chance of getting dementia.
Well, no, I'll tell you something about it because I've actually got the gene.
Oh, wow.
And so is Chris Hemsworth.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, perfect.
So I've had the gene test. I've been tested.
APOE4 ALO.
Okay, so it's apolipoprotein E4.
Okay.
There's apolipoprotein A, little a, big
ApoE4. I
A,
must have
B,
written that down wrong.
little b,
Yeah.
A3,
Yeah.
2, 3, and 4. 40%
Yeah.
of all patients
Yeah.
who die from dementia have the ApoE4 gene.
Wow.
40%.
Wow.
Now, it's not a cause because there are plenty of people who have ApoE4 who do not die from dementia.
60%.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's just saying there's a correlation.
Yeah.
But question I would ask both of you, have you been tested for the ApoE4 gene?
No.
Okay. So
How do I do it?
Pretty simple, mate. I had it done recently.
Normal GP?
Go to your GP and you say, I would like to get a full blood test, a full blood test. And he'll go, oh, okay, this is what the pathology company does, it, blah, blah, blah. And you say, no, yeah, that's great, but I want ApoE4 as well.
Okay. Check for
And
that.
you pay, and you got to pay maybe $50 or something.
Whatever, who
Pay a few
cares?
extra dollars
Yeah,
for it.
yeah.
So, but you should also be getting your Apo A and or lipoprotein A and lipoprotein B's tested, as well as your cholesterol. On top of your cholesterol, these lipoproteins A and B sit on top of the cholesterol molecule, and ApoA is okay, but ApoB is not so good. And ApoB again is correlated to heart disease.
Okay.
Which is in my family too.
So you better get that one checked too.
Yeah.
So and then there's a ratio between A and B, and there's a recommended ratio. If you're outside of the ratio, someone's going to say get on statins.
Do you recommend
Keeps
statins?
coming
Well,
up.
I
for the last few
don't
days.
recommend statins
No,
because
you're a doctor,
I can't
but-
recommend anything. But I would say to you, if you have what they call hypocholesterolemia, in other words, and it's a familiar thing, it's a thing you inherited from your family, right? If you have that, then you should be on statins to reduce what gets produced in your body in terms of LDL, low density lipids,
Yeah.
which could clog your arteries and could cause you, by the way, what's good for your heart
Yeah.
is good for your brain.
Yeah.
So if you've got heart problems, especially if you've got blockages, that's bad for your brain because your arteries, your brain needs blood and it's hungry for nutrition and blood and oxygen all day, all night. It needs it all the time. If you've got blockages, you're not going to get enough up there. So one of the biggest, most common forms of dementia is vascular dementia, where there's blockages in the carotid arteries. And it's pretty simple. You can go and get what they call a Doppler test on your carotid arteries, which is like a ultrasound on your arteries.
Yep.
And they'll tell you whether you've got blockages or not. If you've got blockages, you get onto some statins and it'll help unblock it or stop it from getting blocked more.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
So what's good for your heart is good for your brain. Okay. So it's a full package, this. Just go to your GP. And
Normal GP.
GP and ask for ApoA, ApoB.
Yeah, that
I want to know what the ratios are. If I've got ApoE4.
Yeah.
And then if in terms of getting this, you say to your GP, GP can send you off to St. Vincent's, wherever it is, any local hospital, give you a referral, say I want what they call a Doppler test on your two carotid arteries.
Yeah. Okay. Look, we are tapping into Project 100 by the sounds of things.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
well, these are things I've learned from Project 100.
yeah,
by the
no,
way.
this is good. So maybe just give a quick rundown to our listeners. What is Project 100 and how did it come about?
Well, Project 100 is a project for me to see. I worked out that my father, at close to 90, and this is before he passed away, my father used to sit there with me, my son, my grandson. So 4 generations. And I just think that's pretty cool. And my that was when he's most happy. Sitting in the backyard, north backyard, facing the sun, 4 of us, have a coffee or whatever it is in the morning. And that was religious Saturday, every Saturday.
Yep.
And I thought, I want to do that. That's where I want to be the same dude. And it worked out for me to do that because I had kids much later. My kids had kids much later than my dad and me and my brother. That to enjoy the same thing my father's enjoying 90, I have to live to 100. So I said, I want to enjoy that. So mathematically, I got to lift 100 just to get to where Dad was at 90.
So
that's my project.
Yeah.
So I now have. So I'm going to do a project on myself. I'm experimenting on myself. What have I got to do to myself to optimize my longevity and optimize how I live my life? Because I also want to live like Dad lived. He was always healthy until the last moment, but he was pretty
Massive
healthy.
difference.
He could do everything.
Yeah.
He could get up. He'd walk to the shops. He'd mow the lawns. Things that he enjoyed. He could clip the hedges, stay in his garden, go and see his vegetables, etc. Turn up to functions, drive his car. That's living a good life for me, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
And I want to be able to do the same thing. So Project 100 is about me finding experts in Australia for the Four Horsemen, for the things that kill you. And for me doing every test known to man that I can possibly do that's available here in Australia. In fact, I've even done some that are not available in Australia. I've gone to America to do them. And to work out what I need to know to give myself a fighting chance. It all comes down to your exercise strategy, your food strategy, nutritional strategy, and that's not just about what you eat; it's what you shouldn't eat as well, drink, and what's your sleep strategy, and what's your community strategy. So people in your life. So we keep talking about blue zones. We hear about Ikaria and all those other places, Okinawa. We don't live in those places, okay? We're not walking up the hill to get the water out of the thing and come back down and then milking the goat and and sitting around talking to everybody. This is not our life, you know. You live in Brighton, I live in these suburbs. You know, like we're subject to traffic and all sorts of shit. Our team losing and
stress.
That's the worst part of it.
The worst part of it, you know what I mean? So they don't have any of that, you know. So we shouldn't try. I don't think we can replicate that. But how do we create a sort of a blue zone environment for ourselves where we live?
Yep.
You know, right down to things like this is what I've been going on about, like, you know, what I wash my hands in. What about the water I drink?
Yeah.
What about the olive oil I eat?
Yes.
Now, I'm doing one show. So we're doing a series of shows. Project 100 is a series of shows. We put out one where we're just sitting around talking about it, you know, how we're planning it, just to show people how we plan it.
Sorry, is that just YouTube or is it on?
It's on YouTube and it's on Spotify too.
Yeah, good.
Then we did another one with a doctor more recently who talked. He's a longevity doctor at the University of New South Wales, a longevity researcher. And then we did one last week with a professor in neurology on brain diseases, neurodegenerative diseases. We're going to do one with cardiac, one on urology, one with kidneys and bladder, and for men, prostate. We got this. I'll probably end up doing 100 episodes, I'd say, because there's so many things to talk about.
Yeah. There's so many factors.
Well, and then that's just in terms of general health things, but what about food? Well, let's just pick one food item. Let's pick olive oil. So I'm doing one episode where I've arranged to meet up with a professor in Newcastle. We're going to film it up there, and we're going to blind test some olive oils that I'm going to buy from some supermarkets and places like that. Mm-hmm. And what we're trying to find out is what's inside these olive oils. I'm not going to reveal who they are. I don't want to do that. I'm not here to pull anyone's pants down. I'm here just to make people aware. I'm pretty much saying, work out what it is you're putting in your guts. Mm. What are you consuming? Olive oil, one of the greatest benefits of olive oil is what they call polyphenols.
Yes.
In olive oils. Now, one of the things I've discovered in relation to my research on this, and from talking to this particular professor and others, olive oil producers, people who own olive groves, both in Greece and in Australia, is that when you sometimes you get an olive oil, a tablespoon of olive oil, you put it in your mouth and it burns your throat. Mm. That's the polyphenol content. So the more it burns,
it's like a bitter, burning chili.
It's a bitter taste.
It's spicy.
Yeah, spicy.
And in some villages in Greece, they say this is a 2-cough olive oil or 1-cough olive oil. A 2-cough's better for you.
Yep.
They've always known it. They don't cook with that olive oil. They just put that's a medicine.
Bread and
bit of bread or a tablespoon into a shot glass with some lemon juice.
Yes.
It's medicine.
Yeah.
It's like castor oil.
Yep.
Remember kids, they used to say take castor oil, you know?
Yeah.
It's like castor oil.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be tasty.
Yeah.
Okay. The other one, which is less polyphenols, that's when you cook with. It just greases the pan, helps you flip the thing, gives you a bit of an olive oil aroma, etc., like that. So I'm going to get this guy to test the olive oils because he told me that in terms, a bit like bread, when we were at school, bread was stale 2 days after you bought it. My father used to make toast out of it, not because you don't throw anything away.
Yep.
Today, bread stays soft from the day you buy it to the day it gets mould on it. You know why? Because they put sugar in it. Because kids like soft bread.
Yeah.
It's more palatable. They do the same with olive oil. They take the polyphenols out to make it more palatable.
Yeah.
So, which is okay because people go, oh, well, I don't want that taste. I want the olive oil to be easy to me to put on my thing.
They take all the benefits, the health benefits.
And the health benefits are in the green olive.
Yeah, the little ones.
The little green olives.
Yeah.
Not the black olives.
Yeah.
When the olive goes black, it doesn't have any polyphenols left.
Yeah.
That's why you can eat it, the olive.
Yeah.
If you take olive off the tree, you tried it, you bite it.
Bitter. Yeah.
That's the polyphenol.
Yeah.
We dedicated an entire episode. I was actually in Corfu when I actually sat with that friend of mine that I was telling you about. Spiros Daphnis is his name, and he owns the Governor Olive Mill in Corfu, which I think you've probably tried.
I know the ones.
Now, and he was explaining the process. Now, he presses olive oil in Corfu very differently to everyone else. So he cold presses, which is essential to holding onto all of those nutrients and the polyphenols and what he produces there is what they call high phenolic olive oil.
Polyphenol.
Yes.
Phenolic, yeah.
So part of what they've been doing is providing, I think he said something like, you might remember better than I do, Nick, that something like 4 tons a year that he sends to a university in the US for this type of research specifically. But he said exactly what you said. He goes, you do not cook with this. He goes, I'm having a teaspoon in the morning. He goes, and I'm putting it on my salad or my feta. That's it.
On feta as well. I do the same thing.
That's it.
I know a guy, an Australian guy, but he's got access to wild olive groves in Greece.
Yes.
Small, some little olives, but some of these trees are 1,000 years old. And his olive oil business is called WA Wild Olive. And his olive oil has been tested to have some of the highest levels of polyphenols in the world.
Wow.
But the bottle's only small because you only have a little bit.
Yeah.
Like a
teaspoon?
A tablespoon.
Table. Okay.
Every day.
Yeah.
Because it's good for the brain, it's good for the cells of the brain, it's good for the heart, it's good for so many things. It's good for your skin.
Well, to give people an idea, for a 500ml bottle of something like the Governor or something of a similar ilk,
it's not cheap.
You're looking at about $100 for something like that.
But you know what? It's a good investment.
Absolutely.
It's for your health.
It's in everything we eat.
Yeah.
It's cheaper than a cup of coffee.
It is.
Yeah.
When you think about what we cook on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what how you are, Mark, but I mean, in my family, it's in fucking everything.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So if that's the basis of your diet, you may as well be spending your money there.
That's and we should be spending more money on those things. And that's just, and so Project 100 is about discovering or read. By the way, I'm rediscovering these things because people have been doing this for 10,000 years or whatever.
Absolutely,
they've known this stuff for a long time.
Yeah,
no sugar. It's just a no-no. There's no sugar in my dad's village when he was growing up.
the only sugar they had was fruit.
Some from the tree.
Yeah, but even now, fruit. Do you trust? I read another story about grapes. Grapes are very sweet, and they've been so genetically modified
over time.
Yeah,
because they know that that's what we want.
Yeah.
They know we want everything to be easy, sweet or salty, or fatty. They've worked out over time what are the things that get us going.
What's addictive to humans.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now we've got to push back on that a little bit. It doesn't mean you can't go and eat a bag of chips on Friday night when you're watching the footy and have a beer. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But be aware of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's fine to do that as long as you make sure that you're balanced in relation to the other stuff. And Project 100 is all about that. It's been such a revelation to me, Nick. It's been so good. There's things in this I'm seeing that I remember my mother and father were telling me to do when I was a kid. Water quality. I mean, should we be filtering our water?
Great question. Should we be?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to do an episode on that. A lot of people say, and look at what Kennedy's saying now in the United States. So I'm going to get rid of the fluoride out of the water.
But fluoride. That's why we all got good teeth here. They only put a little bit of fluoride in. Yeah, I think we've debated this.
You and I discussed this off air.
Because fluoride.
Well, that's one more episode's going to be. I'm going to get both sides of the debate.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make a call. I don't know the answer. I've been having fluoride my whole life too.
Yeah.
And I got pretty good teeth.
Yeah.
But the question is, does it do anything else?
Yeah.
What's the consequence of it?
Yeah.
What's the downside of it? Vaccinations.
Yeah.
Which vaccine should we be having? Which vaccine should we give a broadside to?
Yeah.
Like,
but does fluoride, it kills the cryptosporidium and
no,
giardia?
that's chloride.
Oh, that's
Chlorine.
chloride.
So there's a lot of things in water.
Yeah.
It's not just the fluoride.
Yeah.
It's the
Because
chlorine.
it makes sense. When you got, say, we got Warragamba Dam, it's open. Mate,
And
birds
cows
shit
fall
in
in
it,
it.
cows fall in it.
Yeah, totally.
People die, and there's dead things in there.
Probably.
You got to kill that somehow.
Yeah.
And people panic and say, well, it's got chlorine in it, but a little bit's okay.
Okay, but then when it's coming
What's
to
the
your
limit?
tap,
Yeah.
no, that's fine.
Yeah.
They can keep doing that.
Yeah,
But when it comes to your tap,
yeah,
should you have a filter?
yeah, great question. Yeah,
So it comes to you clean.
yeah,
If you filtered everything out and just had just H2O,
yeah,
hydrogen, oxygen, that's it. You don't want anything else.
yep,
Then you should be able to do that.
yep,
I'm not saying the government change the rules.
Yeah.
I'm saying if we don't like it, if one of us makes a decision, I don't like to drink that water because
Yeah.
I don't want
yeah.
have what's
you
in
can
it.
get a filter.
But I do want the government to give me clean water. I don't want to have all the crap in there that
Yeah.
you just talked about.
Yeah.
I definitely don't want any metallic stuff in there that's out of old pipes,
Sure. Yep.
or any other things that might be in there. So I'll filter it.
Yeah.
And maybe we should all be investing in a filter if we can afford it. And maybe it's one of the things we got
Yeah.
to do that instead of going on Afterpay and buying a new dress or a new
Yeah.
whatever we're buying. Maybe we should all be putting filters on our taps. And maybe when they build new houses, they should always have a filter now put into the product.
I feel like they should, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to listen to that episode.
Yeah,
But look,
absolutely.
I heard your first one, the hour and a half, where you sort of set the scene, and I'm starting to listen to it, but mate, fantastic. Because, I don't know, maybe I'm in that age bracket. I've turned 50, 51 now. You start to think about your longevity as well. Like my kids have left school, thinking, I want to be around for my grandkids, you know?
Well, that's exactly my thought. I want to be around
Yeah.
my grandkids.
And I want to be around, I want to be at the footy field watching them. I don't want to be stuck in some hospital or carrying tubes and shit like that. So that's why I'm right into it. I read that Louisa as well, mate. She's fascinating, smart girl.
Louisa Nicholas.
We should try and get her.
She's
on.
big in She lives in America, though.
She's in New York. Yeah,
Yeah.
I heard her on the podcast. So she hires. I think her clinic now. She brings people in and does all these tests.
She does.
I think you did something similar, like an hour and a half in a MRI. I thought I heard you say.
There's a thing called a pre-nuvo test in America. She wouldn't do that, wouldn't be doing that. But it's an MRI machine, which we don't have this technology here in Australia yet. You go in there for an hour and a half, and it's, like one of those little...
Yeah,
you're in a coffin.
It's pretty freaky.
Yeah, it's pretty freaky. And I was in there for an hour and a half, and I was also, my dad was in hospital dying, so it was like even worse because I just kept thinking about him, thinking I should be there with Dad instead of doing this. It wasn't cheap. I did it as more an experiment. It was $2,500, which is quite expensive. It's probably cheaper now, but it was valuable because they look for mass in every part of your body. So they're looking for cancer mass or any mass, whether it's benign or malignant. And they found some plaque in my brain. They found some veins in my brain, which are probably there from boxing. They found growth on my liver, a small growth on my liver, a small growth on my kidney, not much else. So what I was able to do with that then is I went back to my GP and I said, right, these are things they found. Get me to a specialist in relation to every one of them and let's investigate them.
Yeah.
So they find it, they tell you what it might be, but it's
what
up
you
to
can
you
do
to go
about
and
it.
investigate it further.
Yeah.
And it's called a pre-nuvo, Prenuvo.
Wow. Yeah.
And they'll have it in Australia within a year or two, I'd say.
Yeah.
But like as I said, if I can't measure, and I can go back in 2 years and say, let's compare. I'll probably go back 5 years, but let's compare in 2024 with 2029, and it's all about the delta, the change.
Yeah.
So you can see where you've changed. Oh shit! I've got a whole heap of mass in my brain now, or
It's
a whole
grown,
plaque.
it's shrunk, disappeared.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, what's the change?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we need baselines.
Brilliant.
I mean, you're young. You're 50s. You can
Yeah.
you can get baselines, and you can look at your baseline every 5 years.
Yeah.
To the day you die.
Yeah.
And you can watch the progression of thing. You could go to your doctor and say, "Listen, that's changed." For me,
Yeah.
when you introduced me, Tom, you said that I've encouraged Australians to take control of their financial life, right? This project has turned into something where I'm trying to encourage Australians to take control of their health.
Yes.
Don't leave it in the hands of your GP.
Yep.
I'm not having a crack with GPs. My GP is a great guy, right? And I had before him, it was even better. because I was with the other guy for 30 years. He's retired now, but I have a lot of respect for my GP. But it's not up to them to control your health. It's up to you.
Yeah, 100%.
And you've got to be on the front foot.
Great advice.
You've got to know what it is. You've got to say, well, like I know, and I was one of these people. You go along and get a blood test. The GP gets the blood test results. You don't even get a copy of them. He says, nothing to worry about. And you go, oh, great.
Yeah.
You walk out. Now what I do when I get my results, I get a copy. I tell them I want a copy.
Yep.
And I start circling things. I look things up.
Yeah.
And I say, what's that?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah.
Tell me about this.
Yeah.
Or there's been a change.
Yeah.
Should I do some more investigation as a result of the change?
Yeah.
That's me trying to take control. And
Yeah.
I'm probably a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Mate, you've got to do it.
You've got to do it.
I agree. And look, your show is blowing me away. I'm right on board with what you're doing. And I'm starting to do that now. Starting to read a few little things. But look, I'm just interested. So, we could talk forever on this. But what's some of the things that you've learnt now that you could probably share with our listeners? Again, it's only your personal view. I'm not saying you're a doctor and whatever Mark said we have to do. It's just what have you picked up from your view?
The first thing is that those things I mentioned before. When you do need to get blood markers. So go and when you go to get the blood markers, ask your doctor.
Yeah.
First and foremost, always go to the same pathology company.
Yeah.
Now, I use Douglas Hanley Moyer. The only reason I do because I've always been there. But what they'll do is when they give you a report from today's blood test, they all show you last month's or last year's so always go to the same one. Sometimes doctors just send you off to this pathology, some of that pathology. Go to the one.
Yeah.
Same one. Because they use the same measurement protocols as well. So you want to be getting measured the same way every time. Mm-hmm. So that's really important, one.
Yeah.
2, make sure you always get a copy.
Yeah.
3, when you're getting a blood test, make sure you can go and ask for things like ApoE4, which you raised, ApoA, ApoB. And once you get it, your doctor will go, oh, that's pretty cool. And then he or she'll start to talk about it. I'll give you a good little one. So I went and saw my ophthalmologist. I was thinking to myself the other day, if I was to lose one of my senses, which one would be the one I don't want to lose? The most important one to me. And I worked out, I think I probably would prepare to lose anything else other than sight, because I like to watch the game, blah, 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 So I went to my ophthalmologist, not my ophthalmologist, an ophthalmologist that I go to. He's a great guy. And I said to him, let's do all the tests. I'm not talking about an optometrist, I'm talking about an ophthalmologist.
Yes.
He did all these really fancy tests on me, where his nurse had all this stuff tested me. And walking in and he goes, you're not eating enough green leafy vegetables. He had my eye up on the screen. I said, what do you mean? He said, I can tell from your eyeball that I'm looking at that you don't have enough lutein, L-E-U-T, I think is IN, lutein, in your system. And you only the body doesn't produce lutein. You only get lutein from green leafy things like spinach or something like that.
Right.
He said, you're not having enough. He said, and I said, how do you know? He said, because if you had enough lutein in your system, because your eyeball needs it, and you don't want to get eye diseases, like what old people get as you get older. He said, I can tell by the colour, yours is too grey. It should be more clear, more white. And lutein is the thing that keeps this area white.
Right. Okay.
So green, spinach, green stuff. But how amazing. Just something simple.
Straight
like
up.
that. Yeah.
Lutein.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's something simple.
Yeah, pretty simple.
Yeah.
So in terms of sleep strategy, you should eat, according to the sleep experts that I've spoken to, at least 3 hours before you get into bed to go to sleep.
3 hour gap.
Yep. If you should sleep that long, eat before that, and then obviously no alcohol. It's best not to have alcohol because alcohol doesn't actually help you sleep; it interrupts sleep. You should have a lighter meal. The lighter your meal, the better you sleep at night. Strategies around sleep are absolutely critical in order to sleep well. If there is evidence to say that if you meditate 5 to 10 minutes during the day, you will sleep better at night.
Wow. Okay.
Meditation, and just get a meditation app on your
Yeah,
phone.
it's on
and listen
Spotify.
to it.
It's
everywhere.
5-minute
They're everywhere.
ones. Yeah.
5 minutes, 10 minutes, just guided ones, unguided ones, music ones.
Jump on YouTube, you can find them.
They're all over the joint.
Yeah.
So do a 5 minute. So because it's all about getting yourself into that sleep zone. Now, not every night can you do it, because some nights the footy's on till late, some nights you get excited, some nights you've got to go to a dinner or whatever. That I understand. But just in your general cadence.
Yeah.
Because sleep, probably what I've learned so far is sleep is the most important thing in relation to your health.
Wow.
Number one.
Yeah.
And the neurologist who had it on my podcast last week told me that when it comes to brain health, sleep is the most important thing. He said, so when you go to sleep at night, you go into rapid eye movement in the first part of sleep, which is when your body heals. So you might have trained that day, or where your body's tired, wherever your body heals. Then the second part of sleep is your deep sleep, is when your brain heals. And what happens is that there's something in the back of your brain here, I think he said the brain stem, that releases a fluid when you get into this deep sleep. So you've got to get into this deep sleep. That you get into this deep sleep, it goes into your brain and basically just flushes all the shit out. Gets rid of all the amyloids and tau molecules that have been accumulating in your brain all day. If you don't do that, and over a long enough period of time, eventually you could get Alzheimer's and/or dementia. So there is a correlation between people who do not sleep well and who get dementia.
Okay.
How hard was that for you, though? Because, people who are, leaders of companies, CEOs and whatnot, the stories are rife that, they get like 4 hours sleep.
Yeah.
Was that a big one for you?
Yeah, well, I was not a good sleeper. And my mother died from a neuron disease, and I know my mother was a dreadful sleeper, right? So I just knew it was a matter of life and death.
Yeah.
So I just made a decision. That's it. And it is non-negotiable. There's even an argument to say, if you've got a partner, sleep in another room. Now, I don't mean that in a bad way. Or I'm not even trying to be cute. Seriously. Because it's about temperature. We need to be cool when we sleep.
Yes.
We don't need to be hot. Okay? So write down as silly things. Should you sleep naked? Yes, you should sleep naked, because the less clothes you're going to, the cooler you're going to stay. I've got this thing called 8 sleep on my bed. So 8 sleep is something that gets sold worldwide. And what it does, it's like a little air conditioning system. It's like a mattress it's like a mattress cover.
Yep.
But it's got sensors all over it. And it measures your body heat, but it also measures your sleep. So it knows if your heart rate is speeding up, that you're not sleeping, you're not asleep, you're not in a deep sleep, okay? And it will then measure that deep sleep against your heart rate. And it will then measure that deep sleep against your temperature. And it starts to, through AI, learn about you. It says, okay, Mark tends to wake up at 2 o'clock, and at the time, every morning when he wakes up at 2 a.m., his heart rate is at this level, his body temperature has gone to this level, high, okay? So what it then does, it says, so that Mark has a better chance of staying asleep, we're going to regulate his body temperature. It then cools the bed down it sends water around.
This is what I need.
Cover. And it adjusts your temperature.
And is it working for you?
Yes, it's brilliant. And what it does is it works out if it gives you too much cool down, what happens to your heart rate and what happens to your sleep rate. And then it says, hang on, we've cooled it down too much. It titrates it until it gets you to a perfect state. Now, of course, you'll completely stuff it up if you get on the beers or whatever, or smoke weed or something, like do something mad. And you'll probably set it off into a frenzy because they won't know what's going on then. But they're aberrations.
Yes.
I'm not suggesting someone shouldn't do those things, but they're aberrations. Yeah. But generally speaking, it learns about you. And it puts it onto your mobile phone and shows you everything.
Wow.
8 sleep.
8 sleep.
You had a podcast on it. I
put them on my show.
Yeah, I heard it. Great podcast.
The 2 founders, Americans, they came to Australia and they came on my show.
So Mexican, a couple, Italian, Mexican or something. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And so when you say to me, to what extent will I go to? This is the extent I'm going to go to.
Yeah.
Because it's so important.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of catching up.
Yeah.
And I tell you one thing is interesting about this. If I sleep well, I'll train well. Because I like to train in the morning.
Yes.
If I don't sleep well, I don't train well. If I don't train well, then I get filthy on myself because I think, I just didn't get a good session out.
Yep.
Then if I don't train well, I don't work well. Then
the knock-on effects just keep going.
It just keeps going.
Yep.
Then I get home and I feel like I haven't done everything right for the day. Then I don't sleep well. So it starts for me. It starts at sleep and getting that 100% right.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's critical.
Yeah.
And
Brilliant.
It's about strategy.
Yeah.
It's not about saying, I'm going to sleep well, I'm going to go to bed early. It's what is your strategy, Mark? food. What you do before you go to bed. What do you look at your mobile phone when you're in bed? What time do you turn your mobile phone off?
That's a killer too.
Correct. Do I watch television? Do I read a book? What type of thing should I read that doesn't excite me too much?
We listen to The Mentor.
Well, if I put you to sleep, because
Straight
people
talk.
say some people say to me, Tom, my voice actually makes them feel
Yes.
sleepy.
Yeah.
I'm serious, and if that works, I'm happy.
And not in a bad way.
No, not bagging me. But if that works, I'm happy because I want.
No, I
people
listen to
live-
you on the train. Actually, and they just go just long enough where I leave the front door, catch a bus, catch a train.
It's 45 minutes.
Yeah, 40. So you're going a bit over an hour now. Some of them.
Some of the straight talkers, I
But they're
can't
good.
stop talking to the guys.
But that doesn't matter. It just delays me getting to work.
So
I
I
go
got
to a
coming
coffee
on,
shop.
I got Lawsy coming on this week, and I've got Harry
wow.
Triggerboff,
Oh, wow.
and I've also
Jeez.
got Hadley.
Really?
you got him
tomorrow.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And they're the three icons. Whether you like them or not, it doesn't really matter. But
I was gonna say-
Ray Hadley, greatest rugby league caller, along with
Yeah.
of course our old mate
Ray.
Rabs. But whether you like his politics or not, he's been a great advocate for our sport. Right?
Absolutely.
Harry Triggerboff, iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Built more real estate than any person in this country, and on his own.
And he's what, pushing 90 now?
92.
92.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
just written a book.
Yeah.
Which,
I remember he fell off the stage at a Sydney FC game.
Yes.
And I thought, oh my God, because he's in his 80s. And he just got up, brushed himself off. Just,
I'm
there's nothing.
dying to hear his
How-
story,
How old's John Laws now?
He'd be the
He
same.
must be close to 90.
I sat right behind him in a restaurant in Rome. I didn't know until I heard the voice.
Golden tonsils.
Golden
Yeah.
tonsils.
It's like someone's gargling gravel here. What's going on?
And so those ones will go an hour.
Yeah.
Because I just
Brilliant.
can't stop talking to them,
Yeah. And I love the both. I listen to both.
So yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do too.
Fantastic.
And equally, I would talk to Albo if you want to come on too. But Albo doesn't want to come on. But I don't know why. But maybe he will before the election, perhaps,
Yeah,
and maybe
exactly.
Dutton will come on. But I will do those longer form ones.
Yeah,
I don't think I'll be doing anything 2 or 3 hours
We
like
should,
Rogan does.
Yeah. You should get on Rogan. I think you'd be good.
But I don't think he's going to invite me because the American audience couldn't give a shit about me.
They've had a
Aussies
few Aussies on there. Actually,
Yeah.
PBD podcast would be good.
would- Sorry.
Patrick
Actually,
Bet
yeah.
David podcast would be good.
Yeah.
You
totally.
heard of him?
Yeah.
The only thing he talks so fast. They talk 100. He talks 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, you can't slow the podcast down. You can speed them up, but you can't
Yeah.
slow them
Yeah.
down.
Nah.
You should be able to slow them down.
Yeah, but he's good. I listen to them as well. There's so many good ones out there. But I think should we just got one more question before we wrap? We've been going for a
Yeah,
while.
we're right at the end now. So
Yeah, just wanted to touch on your dad's village at Isis. So I was watching Who Do You Think You Are the other day, and John Stamos was on there.
Yeah.
And he's from Tripoli. And they talked about the story of how his great-grandfather got into an altercation. I think he ended up getting shot. It's a really amazing story. So I looked into it, and there's a lot of famous people from that area. Like I know Dr. George Paponis, you probably are aware of.
Yeah.
But there's another guy from Elizes, the town. I don't know, and he's the same age as your dad. His name's Angelo Tsakopoulos. He born in Elizes. He's about 88 now. He migrated to Sacramento, California, ended up getting into real estate construction, all that sort of stuff, made up packet of money. I think he's worth like 600 million US. But his daughter ended up getting into politics. So Eleni Kounalakis is her name. And she's a lieutenant in the Californian government, which means like she's second in charge to Newsom.
Wow.
So, and they're all from Rizes, right from your town where your dad was born.
If he's 88, he would know my dad.
For sure, yeah.
But he would have. Well, my dad migrated pretty young in 48. Excuse me. He migrated in 1948.
Yeah.
But Dad was only, I don't know what to work out the maths, but he'd be doing 12 or 13 or something. So this other individual may have left a lot later. The person you're talking about from Sacramento.
It doesn't say Angelo Tsakopoulos. Like he's got a Wikipedia page. I know you're not a big fan of Wikipedia, Tom.
I am not.
But he's all over the internet. Yeah, and he's done really well for himself.
Wikipedia says my birthday's in November, which I don't know how that. My birthday's in June. Okay. So I don't know if I believe anything Wikipedia
There you go,
says.
Tom. This is where you say, I told you so, Nick.
Yep, I told you so, Nick.
By the way, just speaking of reasons, I'm looking at these walnuts here, and when I was 24, I took myself to Greece and Riza just by myself, and I wanted to go to my dad's village, and it was a bit harder to get there in those days, and I took a bus from Athens You know, the big freeway to Tripoli wasn't there. You know, like it was treacherous roads and things like that. Eventually got in there, and when I arrived there, all the cab drivers there, as people get off the bus, you know, they're hustling. And I got a cab driver, nice guy, and I told him a story, and I wanted to go and visit my dad's. I didn't know where my dad's house was. Like my dad didn't have an address, like as such. And I told him my surname, blah blah blah. Anyway, he took me to this house. There was an old man there, a very old man, who took me in, and he gave me a small glass of ouzo, some water, and he put it on the plate in the middle of the table. Very poor guy, this guy was. Half a dozen walnuts and some olives. That was it. And I remember when I left, I thought to myself, that's probably all the poor old bugger's got. You know, like, but he took me in, he didn't know me, He didn't expect me, didn't know me. He knew my dad. Anyway, I went back to my dad, and told my dad about it. And my dad said, when you were there, he said, was there a big tree? You see a tree? I said, yeah, the old man took me out to show me this tree. But I couldn't understand, my Greek wasn't very good, and I couldn't understand what he was talking about. And he said, was there a fence? I said, yeah, the fence was on your side, your house side of the tree, Dad. He said, that old bastard. He said, he planted that tree, and he's been claiming that tree, and he keeps moving the fence.
Wow.
So, the old guy, here he is giving me some food. Talk about Greeks bearing gifts.
Yeah.
He was giving
moved the fence line.
He moved the fence line.
That is
Dad said
very
he's been
Greek.
encroaching on our land ever since we left.
Yeah.
Which is like, 50 years ago. Like, more than 50 years ago. It was like, maybe 50 years ago. So, he's been encroaching on our land ever since we left. He just keeps moving the fence. That oak tree, or it was an oak tree, he said, that belongs to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's ours.
Wow. What a classic.
That is very Greek.
What a story.
Yeah. And it's funny that the cab driver took me to his family, and he took me in, and I don't know if they're like that anymore in those villages. This was in
I
Tripoli.
feel they are. The philoxenia
I think they
aspect of things is
You think?
certainly on the islands. It is.
Yeah.
On the mainland, I'm not sure. Certainly on the islands. I mean, there are people that go through my wife's village, for example, who say, for example, "Oh, we're looking for somewhere to eat," or something like that. And someone in the coffee shop just said, "Just come to my place." You know, and they went with them. That sort of thing still does exist, and I'd like to think that we have a little bit of that anxiety to make people feel welcome and whatnot. I think that's a good part of what we do.
Maybe village life is like that.
Yes.
It's still.
I think
in
if you're
the
a
country.
true stranger, yes, they'll welcome you with everything. Like if
Yeah.
they don't know you, they'll give you everything. I think so. I think that's still there. But if they know you, there's fucking Nick again. Yeah.
Yeah, he's back for another free whiskey or something.
You want more figs? All right.
I don't know. Do you know George Betts's? Mary Coose's husband.
Yes,
yes,
we
of
do.
course, yeah.
Yes.
George is from.
We know of
Rizzers.
him.
George's
is he
family's
too?
from Rizzers. Yeah.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, and George was at my house, and Mary, they're mates of mine, and George and Mary at my house at a barbecue, and some years ago, and George and I talking about Rizzers, and I brought it up, and I said, "Yeah, I was from there, blah blah," and he said, "Oh, it's funny." He said, "My mother," he forgot all about this. He said, "My mother said to me that your grandmother is her cousin." So we're related.
Yeah.
Wow.
He said they're all from Rizzers, and
you are.
we're related.
So if you did a DNA test, you guys would come up.
Yeah, we would. And so now George calls me cuz when he says,
There you go.
Yeah,
We should look
wow.
up this guy, Angelo Tsakopoulos.
S. how do you spell it in English?
TSAKO. Yeah, Angelo Tsakopoulos. And I forget the company name, but if you Google his name, he's like about 88 now. He's in Sacramento.
I
But
should reach out to him.
you should. You could be related.
No, totally.
I bet you're related,
Well,
mate.
in the village, they probably are related.
Yeah.
Like this,
And more importantly, his daughter's like second in charge of California.
she's the boss.
Newsom's the boss, Gavin Newsom.
Yeah.
She's underneath him.
I'm gonna George.
So she's
What's his name again? George?
Tsakopoulos.
Yeah,
Angelo.
Angelo, not George.
Angelo?
Sorry. Angelo. We'll look it up. Angelo Tsakopoulos.
Yeah,
We'll get an update
and
at
reach
some
out
point.
to her. Yeah, and even reach out to her.
I
Lenny.
will.
So, mate, we could be
If he's on
related.
LinkedIn or he'll be on.
Yeah.
He'll be on.
Well, his kids. He's got about 4 or 5 kids. Now, Lenny would probably be the best contact. But yeah, amazing.
Well, I found some Bourises in Chicago.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so my grandfather, when he left Greece, he had a couple of brothers. They went via Canada. One stayed in Canada. One went to Chicago and one went to Australia.
Right.
and my grandfather came to Australia, but he got kicked out, so he didn't have a passport.
Right.
That's where the word WAP comes from.
Yes.
Yeah.
So without a passport, so he ended up in Melbourne, and I came up to Sydney because they had family up here, or they had village family up here, people from the same village up here. But I've still got cousins in Canada, and they're Bourises, and I saw them actually more recently at my dad's funeral.
Just having a quick read of it. They were in Chicago. Went from Chicago to New York to Sacramento.
Yeah, so a lot of Greeks went to Chicago. A lot.
Okay.
And a lot went to Canada as well, and then obviously a lot went to Melbourne.
Yeah.
And this is all around 48, 49.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, he left in 55, it says here.
He left Greece in 55.
Yeah. So he was born in 36.
So I don't remember how long the Civil War went for.
49 it ended.
49 did it?
Yeah.
Did you ever go and see the movie Eleni?
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
I got the book.
It's okay.
I got the book, but it's too thick.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
my God, it's
He got it for me, actually.
Yeah. The book's
Great
brilliant.
book.
I've read it twice now.
Have you read the book yet?
Yeah, I've read it twice. Yeah.
It's quite dense in terms of, I mean, I don't mean dense in a stupid sense, but dense in quite, you've got to get right into it. Like, it's heavy.
Yeah.
It's a lot of reading.
It's packed with dates and numbers and stuff. Yeah, you got to read. You can't. It's not like a light read.
I've got the book at home. I've never read it. I went and saw the movie with my cousins.
Yeah.
Instead.
Yeah.
But the movie was sort of like what my dad told me about, like what all our uncles were saying, the Greeks against Greeks.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's pretty bad. Well, it was set in where we're from. My parents are from that region, sort of underneath Albania. And in the book, they talked about kids. Once the communists were losing, they rounded up all the kids and took them to the communist side. And one of them was Athanasius, like a young girl, took her over. So it could have been a relative of mine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I haven't really looked into it, but I don't know. I should do a DNA test one day. But yeah.
Because those DNA tests, when you do them, they actually link you with people who have similar traits.
Yeah, long distance.
And you can find a brother or a sister, a half brother, half sister, that you didn't even know you had.
Which has happened. A friend of mine.
Yeah, or someone I know that happened to.
Yeah.
Where she thought she was only a child her whole life, and she's now realised she's got a brother.
Greek?
No, not Greek. No.
Okay.
No, she's not Greek.
I thought it might have been the same person.
No,
I don't know that this is a selling point for it, though. It might be a deterrent.
Well, no. Well, she found it. She's actually my first wife.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh,
And,
really?
Yeah. She only found it about, I think, 2 years ago.
Wow.
That she had a brother, and he's the same, like similar age to her, and she's quite happy, happy to know it, because she always thought she was only child.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you might have, a good connection. Half brother, half sibling.
Yeah. I reckon it's cool.
Yeah.
I love that DNA stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it for my mum as well. She's 83 now, so I thought it'd be good.
Well, I had it done with my mum, my dad, all my boys, me. Yeah, we all did it, and it's interesting. I'm basically, it nearly worked out nearly exactly 50-50 Balkan Greek, and Irish for my mum.
Okay. So what part of Greece? Like northern Greece?
Well, I said Balkan, so it's more towards the north of Greece.
Okay.
My grandfather had fair hair and blue eyes, really tall. Yeah, she was like the opposite. She was like little, dark, and black eyes. But maybe my genetics might be more towards him, because we're all born blonde. Me and my brothers and sisters, all of us are blonde.
That's all my family.
Yeah, it's all the opposite. My mum's side were like you guys, tall, blonde, but all us grandkids, all like me. But we're from the north. So they say that some of us could be from Aya Saranda, which is in Albania, my mum's side. So there's a lot of Greeks in Albania.
Yeah.
So when they redrew the borders, obviously they cut off, and there's still hundreds of thousands of Greeks still there.
There are.
But I think my mum's side could be connected to that area. But they're tall, fair, like your colouring sort of thing. Your features.
Because I got light coloured eyes, compared to, say, my dad and my mum, but my grandfather blue eyes.
Yeah. Well, that's what they say. Genetically, the more north you are, the fairer you are.
Yeah.
Less pigmentation in your skin, all that sort of stuff. And the further south, the further dark you are. So, but anyway, going off topic. But yeah, look, mate, it's been a fantastic chat, Mark. Look.
Thank you.
As always.
We've got to get you on every year, I think. I think we've got to catch up every year with Mark.
Come back once a year.
Once a year, we'll get you
make
on.
it a thing.
I think
It's
we
a
will.
thing.
Yeah. But we didn't talk Cordy.
By the way, Peter Vlanders, get your ass here. I'm not letting that go.
Love it. I love it. We're going to send him these clips.
Totally.
We will.
Send it to the NRL,
Every week.
tag him in.
Yeah.
Every week we'll send him a new clip.
Yeah.
Tag him in. I don't know if he's got his own Instagram page, Peter, but if he does, he's a goner.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Tagging him.
Classic. No, we'll reach out to him.
Well, look,
been
Mark,
a brilliant chat, Mark.
Thanks, guys.
Fantastic. Thanks for
Enjoy.
sharing us a story with your dad as well.
Thank you
I
very
know
much.
you guys were really close.
Yeah,
I could
we
see
were.
you on your Instagram. You were there every Saturday. You've got the perfect son. You're always there.
Probably not, I'll be honest, like I also wanted to know as much as I could possibly know. I knew he was going to die eventually, but I want to know as much as I could possibly know about what he had to teach me, and he wanted to teach.
Yeah.
He wanted to tell stories about his family growing up, the farm, what they ate, what they did at night, what they did when the gypsies came to town, what they did for entertainment, what it was like travelling here on the boat, on the ship, coming to Australia, what it was like when he first arrived in Australia, what was racism like.
Yeah.
It's so important to have document these stories.
100%.
So important.
It's context. It gives you context.
Yeah.
In your relation to your own life. Definitely. I don't know what it is, why we all got to find out where we belong. I don't know where that instinct comes from.
It probably comes back to what Stephen was talking about in the last episode, that the idea of Nostos and the Odyssey as well, which is the
journey.
homecoming journey.
Yeah.
It's that understanding. And picking up all of those things along the way.
Yeah. Exactly.
The Odyssey is such a great metaphor for life.
Absolutely.
If we look at our lives, and I think it would help people who tend to get down and depressed, if you thought of your life as an Odyssey, it's not that things aren't as bad, because it's actually sort of, and it sounds a bit cliche, but it's the journey. There is a journey.
That's what we spoke about.
Yep.
Everything's about a journey. I mean, and whether it's destiny or not, I don't know, but there's definitely a journey going on.
And that's the more enjoyable bit than getting there sometimes. The
Yeah.
stuff you get up to, the things you learn, the people you meet.
Yeah, it's about your overall experiences.
Yeah.
And, Odysseus had all these crazy experiences. I'm sure they're exaggerated for the purposes of literature.
They storytellers, those
Storytellers. But
I was stuck on an island with a woman for 10 years, but,
No,
I couldn't get off.
Only when
Yeah, and he
She
couldn't
wasn't
get off.
hot, though. She wasn't hot.
Yeah, right, mate.
He's trying to sell it to his wife. She wasn't hot, I swear.
Yeah, well, that's when he got back.
Yeah.
Well, but what's interesting, his wife kept saying, Odysseus' wife kept saying that she kept turning away all her suitors because she thought he was a goner. He's gone. He's not coming back.
Yeah.
But she said, look, darling, I always knew we were going to come back, and I did not fall for it.
Yeah.
Not one of these guys could get me. I'm not sure I believe it, but anyway. Not even one.
And it was only his dog that recognised him when he got back.
That's right.
Oh dear. Well, look, again, we say it at the end of every episode, but we could genuinely talk for days, with most of our guests, even more so with yourself. So
100%.
Guys, make sure you're listening to The Mentor and Straight Talk. We listen
Project
to the podcast.
100.
Project 100. Yellow Brick Road. I mean, you don't need to advertise Yellow Brick Road, but everyone knows
No,
it.
you got another, is it another podcast, Yellow Brick Road?
Yeah, we have one called Property Insights.
Yeah.
There you go.
We talk to real estate agents and Stephen Koukoulas once a month.
Support Greeks in podcasting, including Ouzo Talk, including Mark, Kooky as well. Mate, just get on all of them. There's something to get out of all of us.
Well done, mate. Well said. Well said.
Thanks, guys.
Fantastic. Well, guys, ouzotalk@outlook.com is the email. Follow us on social media at Ouzo Talk and at Ouzo_talk on Instagram. Also on YouTube, Nick Athanasiou and the great Mark Bouris. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Ακολουθήστε μας στο Soundees, στο Spotify, στο Apple Podcasts και στο Google Podcasts.